Welcome back to the quiet apothecary. Take a slow breath, settle into where you are, and let the shoulders drop a little. There is no hurry tonight, and nothing here that asks anything of you. The lamp is low. The shutters are half drawn. The fire on the hearth has burned down to a soft orange glow. Tonight we are going to walk together a very long way back, much further back than the medieval cottage gardens or the herb cupboards of the slow old apothecary, much further back even than the chalk roads of Roman Britain or the marble steps of classical Athens. Tonight we are going back to a small inland village above the Argive plain in the hills of southern Greece, in the late part of what we now call the Bronze Age. The year is roughly 1500 before the Common Era. The kingdom of Mycenaean sits 2 days' walk to the east, with its great cyclopean walls and its lion gate not yet darkened by the long centuries to come. The Trojan War, if it is to happen at all, is still 3 or 4 generations away. The first letters of the Greek alphabet have not yet been imagined. There are no books anywhere in the world that look anything like the books we know. There is only memory and song and the slow, careful teaching of one quiet hand to another. Imagine for a moment that you wake there. Imagine for a moment that you are not the listener in a comfortable bed at the close of a long modern day, but rather the apprentice to the village healer, in a small stone hut on the high terrace of a quiet hillside village some 35 centuries ago. The blanket on you is wool, soft from many years of washing. The pillow is stuffed with dry summer mountain herbs. The cool clay of the floor smells faintly of olive smoke and dried thyme. From somewhere down the slope below the hut, you can hear the slow, soft tunk of a goat bell and the early morning voice of a woman drawing water at the cistern. The cool grey light of a dawn not yet broken is just beginning to gather at the edge of the small high window. Tonight we are going to walk slowly together through 10 quiet reasons why a modern soul, lifted out of its own warm bed and set down in those sandals on that cool clay floor, would not last a single day as the apprentice field healer of a Bronze Age village. We will say that plainly because that is the shape of the long evening to come, but we will not say it sharply, and we will not turn it into a joke or a jolt at any point along the way. We will simply, gently, walk through what such a year would have asked of you, and what it would have given you back, and what it would have left you in the end, kindly unable to do without close company through every day of it. The framing is the work of the curious imagination, but the herbs and the people and the gods are real. The small woman who would be your teacher we will call Eunoia, a Greek name from the very oldest layer of the language, meaning kindly minded. She has gathered roots and sung the long charms in this village for nearly 50 years, and she learned them in her own girlhood from her grandmother, who had learned them from her grandmother before her. The young apprentice you have been cast, as we will call Mela, a soft Greek name meaning honey. The other small folk you will meet, the Gothard Crithon, the warrior Dolios, the young mother Phaeaci, the small boy Linos, the old man Cleminos, the widow Isla, the slow widower Pains, the old goat keeper Idmon, will pass through the long quiet year as your patients, each in their own turn. The pace tonight is the pace of the slow dawn outside the small window. There is nothing here that needs to hurry. We will move slowly through the apprentice's daily life, through the cool stone hut and the 4 wooden shelves of the cupboard, through the herb beds on the terrace, and the spring of the nymphs, and only then will the first patient knock at the lintel. Then we will walk gently through 10 chapters of one quiet Bronze Age year, from the spring of herb gathering, through the warm summer of warriors and births, through the slow autumn of chronic care, through the cold winter of the long death, through the late winter of the trader's visit, and at last to the slow, careful spring of your own walking out into the wider world. If your eyes have grown heavy somewhere in the middle of all of this, that is exactly the point. There is nothing here that you are required to follow. The names will come and go. The herbs will hang in the rafters of the cool stone hut. The small bronze knife will rest, polished and quiet, on the second shelf of the cupboard. The slow, soft tunk of the goat bells will drift up from the slope below. There will be nothing here, anywhere, that asks anything of you tonight beyond the slow, soft drifting of your own breath into a quiet sleep. Let us begin, then, with the first slow waking of the day. Let us begin with the cool grey light at the small, high window, and the low orange glow of last night's banked fire, and the slow, careful turning of the old healer Unua from her own pallet on the far side of the hut. Let us begin with the slow, careful gathering of the morning, and the soft, slow learning of what it would be to be her apprentice in a Bronze Age village in the long, quiet year of 1500 before the Common Era. Imagine, then, the cool stone hut on the high terrace of the village. It is a small square room, no larger than a modern cottage kitchen, built of rough basalt blocks, gathered from the dry stream bed below the village, and chinked carefully with clay. The roof is of cypress beams laid close, with a thick layer of brush and clay packed above to keep out the slow winter rain. The walls have been whitewashed long ago with crushed limestone and lime, and the smoke of 100 quiet seasons has gentled the white into a soft, warm cream. The single small high window faces east, toward the spring of the nymphs and the long open path that climbs the hill above the village. The door is of cypress wood, hung on 2 slow, careful bronze hinges that the village smith made for Unua's grandmother, and that have been oiled with olive oil every spring since. The lintel is carved with the small old shape of an open hand with the fingers spread, the very oldest sign in this part of Greece for a healer's house. Inside, the floor is of beaten clay, swept clean every morning with a small broom of dried thyme tied to a willow handle. The hearth sits in the corner farthest from the door, raised a small step above the floor, with a low ring of stones around it, and a thick clay cap above to draw the smoke up to a small hole in the roof. Above the hearth, on a long iron hook, hangs a single suit, black clay pot with a wooden cover and a long-handled clay ladle resting beside it. To the right of the hearth, 2 clean linen sacks of dried beech, wood and oak twigs lean against the wall, ready for the next slow, careful boiling. To the left, a small, low wooden bench, polished smooth by 1,000 mornings of sitting, holds a wide, shallow basket of fresh thyme tied in small, soft bunches. Along the long inner wall, 4 wooden shelves are fitted into the stone, the tallest as high as your shoulder, the lowest a hand's breadth above the floor. The 4 shelves are the great quiet body of the cupboard, and you will come to know each of them, in time, the way you might come to know the 4 seasons of a small garden. The lowest shelf holds the leaves. There are small dry linen bags of mountain mint, of common mallow, of wild marjoram, of thyme of the chalk slopes, of the soft grey leaves of the dittany of Crete, brought up by the trader Hipponax once a season from Tyrians. There is a flat, wide reed basket of dried meadow chamomile, the small white, petalled apple, scented herb of every gentle cup. There is a tightly woven willow basket of dried lemon balm, the soft bee-loved leaves of the sunny garden bank. There is a small clay jar of dried sage, the silver-leafed herb of the long memory and the slow sore throat. There is a tight bunch of dried mountain thyme of the high hills, kept apart from the chalk thyme of the lower slopes, because the two have, in this part of the world, very different powers and must never be confused. The second shelf holds the roots. There are small linen bags of dried valerian root from the cool wood, edged by the spring, of dried licorice root from the long traders down to the south, of dried iris root from the slow careful gathering on the slopes of Mount Parnitha, of dried fennel root from the dry hills above the threshing floor. There is the small tightly tied bundle of dried mandragora root, kept on the back of the shelf because of its long, slow, careful tradition and the small, careful warning that has come down with it. There is a small clay jar of crushed, dried ginger root from the long traders down to the eastern islands, brought up by Hipponax in tightly stoppered small clay jars at very high cost. The third shelf holds the resins, the gums, the oils. There is a small alabaster jar of the slow brown crystal of myrrh from the far southern land of Punt, brought across the sea by the great traders of the Egyptian fleet. There is a small alabaster jar of the pale yellow crystal of frankincense, brought up the long, slow caravan road from the Hadramot. There is a small clay jar of the dark amber pine resin of the high mountain pines, used for the slow careful sealing of a wound and the slow careful incense of a household. There is a small bronze flask of the slow careful pressed olive oil of the village's own long terraces, and beside it a small bronze flask of the slow scented sesame oil of the long traders down to Egypt. There is a small dark glass, well no larger than a thumb, of the slow careful infused poppy of the Cretan hills, kept on the back of the shelf with the small careful warning that has come down with it. The fourth shelf, the highest, holds the bone tools. There is a small bronze knife with a careful bronze handle, polished with daily use, kept in a soft small linen sleeve. There is a small basalt mortar with a basalt pestle, polished smooth by long careful grinding. There is a small wooden roller for the slow careful flattening of dough and herb. There is a small bronze probe with a tiny careful curved tip, used for the slow careful drawing of a thorn from a finger or a small sliver of bronze from a wounded thigh. There is a small bone awl for the slow careful threading of sinew through the soft careful edges of a wound. There is a small clay flask of vinegar for the slow careful washing of a wound, and beside it a small clay flask of the slow careful brine of the village's own salt store. The fourth shelf is the slow careful working shelf, and it is the shelf you will come, in time, to reach for first when the door of the small stone hut opens for a patient. The morning begins, as every morning begins in this village, with a careful drawing of water from the cistern. The cistern sits in the small open courtyard between the small stone hut and the next house down the slope, a square low pit lined with carefully fitted stones, with a round wooden lid kept upon it day and night to keep out the dust of the path and the slow careful curiosity of the village dogs. Una rises in the cool grey of the dawn, draws her woven head, cloth over her long thinning grey hair, ties the linen apron at her waist, takes the small olive, wood yoke and the 2 small clay water jars from the bench beside the door, and steps out into the slow, careful waking of the village. You follow, half a step behind, with your own small clay jar in your hands. The cool path is faintly damp from the night's slow dew. The slow, soft tunk of a goat bell drifts up from the slope below the village. A small grey cat steps out from beneath the lintel of the next house and walks slowly across the path in front of you, and you both pause and let it pass, because Una was taught by her grandmother that to break the slow, careful path of a cat in the early morning is to break the small, careful luck of the day. The cistern lid is lifted carefully aside. The water below is cold and dark and smells very faintly of the cypress wood of the lid and the long, careful stones of the lining. Una lowers the small clay jar on the long fibre rope, draws it up slowly, hand over hand, and pours it carefully into one of the small jars on the yoke. You lower your own small clay jar in turn, draw it up slowly, hand over hand, and pour it carefully into the second jar on the yoke. The lid is replaced. The rope is coiled. The yoke is lifted to the shoulder. The small, careful procession of 2 starts back up the slope to the cool stone hut on the high terrace. There are no maps in this world that show your village. There are no roads with names. There are no signposts of any kind anywhere within 5 days' walk of where you stand. The village itself has no name written down, although the elders call it, in their own slow, careful speech, the small old place above the spring. Below your terrace, the hillside falls away in slow, careful steps of olive trees and old fig trees, and the small, low stone walls of the long, careful working terraces down through the threshing floor of the village, where the broad, smooth stone circle gleams a pale, soft tan in the early morning light, and onward, much further down, to the small palace road that runs along the edge of the Argive plain, from the high window of the small stone hut. On a clear morning, you can just see the small, careful glint of bronze on the helmet of a watchman, walking the small palace road 2 valleys away. From a slightly higher terrace, on a very clear morning, you can just see the careful soft wisp of grey wood, smoke rising from the great bronze hearth of the palace of Mycenaean itself, 2 days' walk to the east. You will, in your year as Mela, walk to that palace exactly once, on a careful errand for Una to deliver a small linen bag of dried mountain herbs to the king's own slow, careful house healer. That walk, when it comes, will be the longest walk of your young life, but that is for later in the year. For now, the small, careful procession of 2 has reached the cool stone hut on the high terrace. The small clay jars of cool water are set down carefully on the long stone bench beside the hearth. Una banks the slow, soft glow of the night fire with a small, careful handful of the dried beech twigs from the linen sack by the wall, blows softly upon the small, careful ember, and the slow, careful, pale yellow flame catches and rises. The soot black clay pot is lifted carefully from its long iron hook. Cool water is poured carefully in. The pot is hung carefully back upon the hook, swung carefully into the slow, soft warmth of the small, careful fire. The first slow, careful work of the morning is the grinding of the seeds. You take down from the 4th shelf the small basalt mortar and the small basalt pestle. You bring them carefully to the long stone bench beside the hearth. Yunoa, from the second shelf, takes down a small linen bag of dried fennel seed from the small careful slope above the threshing floor. She untees the soft careful knot at the top of the bag, careful and slow, and pours a small careful handful of the soft brown seeds into the small basalt mortar. She nods once, and you take up the small basalt pestle and begin the slow careful work. The seeds, under the slow careful weight of the basalt, give way with a small careful crackle. The slow careful scent of warm fennel rises into the cool grey air of the small stone hut. You grind in the slow careful rhythm she taught you. 3 turns to the right, 3 turns to the left, and 3 soft careful presses straight down. There is a slow careful chant for the work, taught to her by her grandmother, that she has not yet taught you, although she sings it under her breath as you work. You catch only the slow careful end of each line. The seeds are reduced, in time, to a soft warm fennel meal, fragrant of summer hillsides, that she will use later in the day, in a small careful tisane for a young woman down the slope who has been troubled by the small careful pains of the cycle. The slow careful work of the morning continues, in this slow careful way, for an hour or more before the first patient comes. There is the slow careful washing of yesterday's small clay cups in cool water and a small careful pinch of wood ash. There is the slow careful sweeping of the cool clay floor with the small thyme broom. There is the slow careful gathering of fresh thyme from the herb bed on the small careful south facing terrace just outside the door, and the slow careful tying of the small soft bunches with thin linen thread. There is the slow careful checking, 1 bag at a time, of each of the linen bags on the lowest shelf of the cupboard, that nothing has gone musty in the night, that nothing has been gnawed by a mouse, that nothing has lost its slow careful scent. While you do all of this, Yunoa speaks quietly, in slow careful sentences of what you should know. There is no germ theory here. No one in this village, no one in the palace at Mycenaean, no one in the great kingdoms of Egypt or the Hittite cities far to the east has ever imagined a microbe. There is no anatomy. No one in this village has ever seen the inside of a healthy human body, and only Yunoa and the village priest have ever seen the inside of a body at all, and only at the careful washing of the dead. There is no chemistry. There is no pharmacology. There are no books of medicine anywhere in the world that look anything like the books we know. There is, instead, memory, the slow, careful memory of Yunoa's grandmother, and her grandmother before her, and her grandmother before her, in a long, slow, careful chain that stretches back, by the count of the village priest, 8 or 9 slow, careful generations. There are the slow, careful chants, taught in lessons of 3 breaths, that name the herbs and their slow, careful seasons and their slow, careful preparations. There is the slow, careful watching of the slow, careful patients, year by year, that has slowly, carefully taught the long, slow, careful tradition what works and what does not. That is what you have. That is your whole library. That is your whole pharmacy. That is your whole field of medicine. Memory, song, and the slow, careful watching of the slow, careful patients. It is a great deal more than nothing. It is a great deal less than what we now know. You are about to learn, slowly and carefully and gently, exactly where the line between those 2 falls. Let us turn now to the first chapter of the long, quiet year. Let us turn now to the first patient at the small cypress door of the cool stone hut on the high terrace. Let us turn now to the slow, careful first lesson of the apprentice's first year. The first chapter is the first patient. The first patient is a goatherd named Crithon. Crithon is a young man of perhaps 20 summers, broad in the shoulder, with a soft, careful brown beard, and the slow, careful darkened skin of one who spends every day of the year on the high pastures above the village. His grandmother, who is one of Unoa's oldest careful patients, sent him up the long slope to the cool stone hut on the high terrace at mid-morning, with a small careful linen wrapped bundle in his hand and a slow careful ache in his right ring finger. He knocks softly at the cypress door. Uno, from the long stone bench by the hearth, where she has been slowly carefully grinding a small handful of dried mountain thyme into a soft careful meal for a small careful poultice, calls out a soft careful word of welcome. The cypress door opens slowly. Crithon, ducking the low careful lintel, steps slowly carefully into the cool small hut, and with a small careful smile holds up his right hand. The ring finger is swollen, soft, and red, with a small careful dark thorn buried deep in the soft careful pad of the second knuckle. The skin around the thorn is shiny, hot, and the slow careful red has begun to creep up the soft careful inner side of the finger toward the slow careful base of the hand. You watch quietly from the long stone bench. Uno rises slowly. She crosses the small careful clay floor. She takes the slow careful right hand of the young goatherd in both of her own slow careful hands and turns it carefully, slowly, this way and that, in the cool grey light of the small high window. She nods once. She speaks slowly carefully of the slow careful weather, of the slow careful goats, of the slow careful grandmother. The young goatherd answers slowly carefully of the slow careful weather, of the slow careful goats, of the slow careful grandmother. The slow careful conversation is not in any way idle. It is the slow careful first part of the slow careful examination. Uno is watching, slowly carefully, the slow careful color of the young goatherd's face, the slow careful shine of the soft careful sweat at his temples, the slow careful clearness of the soft careful whites of his eyes, the slow careful steadiness of his slow careful breath. She is checking, slowly carefully, that the slow careful red has not yet reached the slow careful blood of the heart, and that the slow careful young body of the slow careful goatherd has not yet begun to slow careful burn with a slow careful fever. She turns then to you. She speaks slowly carefully of what she sees. There is a thorn. There is a slow careful infection. The slow careful infection has not yet reached the slow careful blood. The slow careful young body of the slow careful goatherd is still, for now, slow careful strong. The slow careful task of the slow careful morning is to draw the slow careful thorn, to slow careful clean the slow careful wound, to slow careful dress the slow careful finger, with a slow careful poultice of the slow careful drawing herbs, and to slow careful send the slow careful young goatherd back down the slope to his slow careful grandmother with slow careful instructions for the slow careful changing of the slow careful poultice. You nod slowly, carefully. You do not yet know how to do any of this. This is the first slow careful lesson of the slow careful first year. There is a slow careful great gap in this slow careful Bronze Age village between what the slow careful young apprentice has been told and what the slow careful young apprentice can yet do. The slow careful long chants of the slow careful old grandmother are not yet in your slow, careful young mouth, the slow, careful work of the slow, careful old hand, the slow, careful, long, slow names of the slow, careful herbs are not yet. In your slow, careful young mind, the slow, careful work of the slow, careful, long, quiet eye. You know, in the slow, careful, soft chant of the slow, careful, long evenings, that the slow, careful drawing herbs are mallow and marshmallow and chamomile and yarrow and a small, careful pinch of dried fennel seed for the slow, careful warmth of the wound. You do not yet know, in the slow, careful, long, quiet eye of the slow, careful old hand, exactly how much of each, and exactly how warm the slow, careful poultice should be when it is laid upon the slow, careful, soft skin of the slow, careful young goatherd, and exactly how long the slow, careful poultice should be left in place before it is slow, careful changed for the slow, careful next. Yunoa slowly, carefully walks you through it. She takes down from the lowest shelf a small linen bag of dried mallow leaf, a small linen bag of dried marshmallow root, a small flat reed basket of dried meadow chamomile, and a small linen bag of dried yarrow. From the second shelf, she takes down a small clay jar of crushed dried fennel seed. She measures, by the slow, careful pinch and the slow, careful handful, a small, soft pile of each into a small clay bowl. She adds a small, careful spoon of the slow, careful, pressed olive oil from the small bronze flask on the third shelf. She adds a small, careful spoon of warm water from the soot, black clay pot on the iron hook above the hearth. She mixes the slow, careful, soft, warm pile with the slow, careful, careful hand. The slow, careful, soft, warm scent of mallow and marshmallow and chamomile and yarrow and warm fennel rises slowly, carefully into the cool grey air of the small stone hut, while the slow, careful poultice rests slowly, carefully in the small clay bowl. Yunoa turns slowly, carefully back to the slow, careful young goatherd. She takes the slow, careful right hand of the slow, careful young goatherd in both of her own slow, careful hands. She lays the slow, careful right hand of the slow, careful young goatherd carefully, slowly, upon the long stone bench. She takes down from the fourth shelf the small bronze probe with the tiny, careful, curved tip. She dips the slow, careful, curved tip carefully, slowly, in the slow, careful clay flask of vinegar. She tells the slow, careful young goatherd, slowly, carefully, to look slowly, carefully out of the small, high window at the slow, careful waking of the slow, careful village. The slow, careful young goatherd looks slowly, carefully out of the small, high window. Yunoa slowly, carefully draws the slow, careful dark thorn from the slow, careful soft pad of the slow, careful second knuckle. The slow, careful young goatherd does not, in any way, cry out. He simply, slowly, carefully, breathes in once, slowly, carefully, and breathes out once, slowly, carefully, and the slow, careful dark thorn lies, slowly, carefully, on the long stone bench beside his slow, careful right hand. Yunoa nods once. You exhale, slowly, carefully, the slow, careful breath you did not realize you had been slow, careful holding. The slow, careful wound is slow, careful washed, slowly, carefully, with a soft, careful linen cloth dipped in the slow, careful vinegar of the small clay flask. The slow, careful warm poultice from the small clay bowl is slow, careful laid, slowly, carefully, upon the slow, careful soft pad of the slow, careful second knuckle. A soft, careful linen strip is slow, careful wrapped, slowly, carefully, around the slow, careful right ring finger of the slow, careful young goatherd, and tied off, slowly, carefully, with a small, careful soft knot at the slow, careful top. Yunoa speaks, slowly carefully to the slow careful young Gothard. She tells him, slowly carefully, to keep the slow careful right hand slow careful clean, and slow careful dry, and slow careful raised above the slow careful heart whenever he can. She tells him slowly carefully to come back slowly carefully every slow careful evening for the next slow careful 3 slow careful days, and that she will slow careful change the slow careful poultice slowly carefully each evening, and watch slowly carefully the slow careful color of the slow careful skin around the slow careful wound. She tells him slowly carefully that if the slow careful red begins to slow careful creep further up the slow careful arm, or if the slow careful young body of the slow careful Gothard begins to slow careful burn with a slow careful fever, his slow careful grandmother is to send him slow careful back to the cool stone hut on the high terrace at once, slowly carefully, even in the middle of the slow careful night, and Yunoa will slow careful come down to him at the slow careful first call. The slow careful young Gothard nods slowly carefully. He thanks Yunoa slowly carefully. He hands her slowly carefully the small careful linen wrapped bundle from his slow careful left hand. It is slowly carefully a small careful round of the slow careful sharp white goat cheese of his slow careful grandmother, wrapped slowly carefully in the soft careful green leaves of a slow careful fig tree. He smiles slowly carefully at you, the slow careful young apprentice on the long stone bench, and ducks the low careful lintel, and steps slowly carefully back out into the slow careful warming morning. The slow careful cypress door swings slowly carefully shut. You sit slowly carefully on the long stone bench. You are slowly carefully very quiet. Yunoa comes slowly carefully back to the slow careful long stone bench. She sits slowly carefully beside you. She speaks slowly carefully in the soft careful voice of a slow careful old hand teaching a slow careful young hand. She does not speak of the slow careful young Gothard, or of the slow careful dark thorn, or of the slow careful warm poultice, or of the slow careful linen strip. She speaks slowly carefully of what you do not yet know. You do not yet know, slowly carefully, why the slow careful red creeps up the slow careful soft inside of the arm in some slow careful patients and not in others. You do not yet know, slowly carefully, why the slow careful warm poultice of mallow and marshmallow and chamomile and yarrow draws the slow careful infection from the slow careful soft pad of the slow careful second knuckle in some slow careful patients and not in others. You do not yet know, slowly carefully, why the slow careful young body of the slow careful Gothard this morning was slow careful strong, while the slow careful young body of the slow careful Gothard's slow careful cousin, who came slowly carefully to the cool stone hut on the high terrace last summer with a slow careful similar slow careful thorn, was slow careful taken by a slow careful fever in the slow careful course of the slow careful following slow careful 3 slow careful days. You do not yet know, slowly carefully, what the slow careful difference is. The slow careful truth, slowly carefully, is that Yunoa does not yet know either. The slow careful long slow careful tradition has, slowly carefully, made its slow careful peace with the slow careful great careful gap. The slow careful old hand does, slowly carefully, what the slow careful long slow careful tradition has slowly carefully taught it to do. The slow careful long slow careful tradition has, slowly carefully, learned by the slow careful watching of the slow careful patients, year by year, that the slow, careful, warm poultice of mallow and marshmallow and chamomile and yarrow draws the slow, careful infection from the slow, careful, soft pad of the slow, careful wound in most slow, careful patients. Most of the time, the slow, careful, long, slow, careful tradition has, slowly, carefully, learned that the slow, careful, early drawing of the slow, careful thorn before the slow, careful red has reached the slow, careful blood of the heart, gives the slow, careful young body of the slow, careful goatherd the slow, careful best chance of the slow, careful, long, slow, careful recovery. The slow, careful, long, slow, careful tradition does not slowly, carefully know why. It only knows slowly, carefully that it is so. That is the slow, careful first lesson of the slow, careful first year. The slow, careful gap between the slow, careful curiosity of the slow, careful young apprentice and the slow, careful dogma of the slow, careful, long, slow, careful tradition is, slowly, carefully, very wide, and very old, and very quiet. You do not yet know how to live inside it. By the slow, careful end of the slow, careful year, you will have begun, slowly, carefully, to learn. The slow, careful young Gothard Crithen comes back, slowly, carefully, 3 slow, careful evenings in a row. The slow, careful poultice is slow, careful changed, slowly, carefully, each evening. The slow, careful red slowly, carefully recedes. The slow, careful soft pad of the slow, careful second knuckle slowly, carefully heals. By the slow, careful evening of the slow, careful third slow, careful day, the slow, careful right ring finger of the slow, careful young Gothard is slowly, carefully soft, supple, and a slow, careful pale, healthy pink. He thanks Unoa, slowly, carefully, with a small, careful linen wrapped bundle of fresh fig fruit from his slow, careful grandmother's slow, careful tree, and he ducks the low, careful lintel, and he steps slowly, carefully back out into the slow, careful evening, and you do not see him in the slow, careful course of the slow, careful, long, quiet year again until the slow, careful late autumn, when he comes slowly, carefully up the long slope with a small, careful linen wrapped round of the slow, careful new season's goat cheese, simply, slowly, carefully, to thank Unoa once more. That is the slow, careful, happy ending of the slow, careful first patient. There will be other slow, careful patients in the slow, careful course of the slow, careful, long, quiet year, whose slow, careful endings are not so slow, careful, happy. You do not yet know that. You do not yet know, slowly, carefully, that you cannot, in this slow, careful world, save them all. You will learn, slowly, carefully, gently. The slow, careful, long, slow, careful tradition has its slow, careful way of teaching that lesson too. Let us turn now to the slow, careful second chapter of the slow, careful, long, quiet year. Let us turn now to the slow, careful walking of the slow, careful hill paths, and the slow, careful naming of the slow, careful plants, and the slow, careful first slow, careful step of the slow, careful, long, slow, careful learning of the slow, careful, great, careful library of the slow, careful old hand. The second chapter is the naming of the herbs. The slow, careful morning, 3 slow, careful days after the slow, careful Gothard Crithen has gone slow, careful safely back down the slope, is a soft, careful spring morning of the slow, careful kind that comes only a small, careful handful of times in the slow, careful turning of the slow, careful Argive year. The slow, careful sun has just risen above the slow, careful, long, slow, careful ridge to the east. The slow, careful air is cool, soft, and carries the slow, careful, clean green scent of the slow, careful young grass on the slow, careful terraces below the village. A small, careful flock of pale, grey doves is wheeling, slowly, carefully, above the threshing floor. The slow, careful goat bells of Crithan and his slow, careful uncle, who has the slow, careful next pasture along the slow, careful hillside, are drifting slow, careful, softly up the slope from the slow, careful far side of the spring of the nymphs. Noah is sitting, slowly, carefully, on the long stone bench by the cypress door, drawing on her slow, careful sandals of the soft, careful brown leather, the small, careful straps of which she has slow, carefully oiled, with a small, careful spoon of the slow, careful pressed olive oil, only the slow, careful evening before. She is dressed in her slow, careful long linen tunic of the slow, careful soft, careful pale cream, the slow, careful soft, careful warmth of which is a small, careful comfort against the slow, careful cool of the slow, careful early morning. Her slow, careful woven head cloth, the slow, careful pale soft pattern of which she wove slowly, carefully on her own slow, careful loom many years before, is slow, careful, carefully folded at her slow, careful waist for the slow, careful walking. And her slow, careful, long, thinning grey hair is slow, careful, tied softly back from her slow, careful, kind face, with a small, careful linen ribbon. You sit, slowly, carefully, on the small, low stool beside her, drawing on your own slow, careful sandals of the soft, careful brown leather, the slow, careful straps of which she has slow, careful taught you, only the slow, careful previous week, to slow, careful oil yourself with a small, careful spoon of the slow, careful pressed olive oil. You are wearing your own slow, careful long linen tunic, slow, careful given to you by your own slow, careful mother on the slow, careful day. You came up the slope to begin the slow, careful apprenticeship, and the slow, careful pale soft cream of the slow, careful linen is slow, careful soft, and slow, careful warm against the slow, careful cool of the slow, careful early morning. Beside you, on the long stone bench, lies a small, careful flat reed basket with a slow, careful pair of soft, careful linen straps for the slow, careful carrying. Noah speaks slowly, carefully. Today, she says, we walk. Today, slowly, carefully, we begin the slow, careful, long, slow, careful naming. Today, slowly, carefully, we walk the slow, careful hill paths above the spring of the nymphs, and we slow, careful name, slowly, carefully, every slow, careful herb that the slow, careful old hand of the slow, careful, long, slow, careful tradition has slow, careful learned to slow, careful know. There are no books, she says slowly, carefully. There is, slowly, carefully, no slow, careful written list. There is, slowly, carefully, no slow, careful drawing, no slow, careful page, no slow, careful, slow scroll, no slow, careful, slow tablet. There is, slowly, carefully, only the slow, careful walking, and the slow, careful naming, and the slow, careful learning of the slow, careful old hand by the slow, careful young eye, and the slow, careful young nose and the slow, careful young finger. There is, slowly, carefully, only the slow, careful watching of the slow, careful old hand, and the slow, careful listening to the slow, careful old chant, and the slow, careful tasting of the slow, careful small, careful leaf, and the slow, careful smelling of the slow, careful small, careful flower, and the slow, careful turning of the slow, careful small, careful leaf in the slow, careful young hand, until the slow, careful young hand has slowly, carefully learned the slow, careful small, careful shape of it by heart. This, she says, is the slow, careful, first slow, careful, great, slow, careful danger of the slow, careful, long, slow, careful tradition. A slow, careful, misnamed herb is, slowly, carefully, a slow, careful, dead patient. A slow, careful, misgathered herb is, slowly, carefully, a slow, careful, dead patient. A slow, careful herb gathered at the slow, careful, wrong moon, or at the slow, careful, wrong hour, or at the slow, careful, wrong terrace, or under the slow, careful, wrong, slow, careful, slow, careful, slow, careful breath of the slow, careful, slow, careful, slow, slow, careful, 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 soul, slow, careful, slow, careful, slow, careful, slow, full breath, slow, full, slow, breathe, flow, full, breathe, is slowly, carefully, a slow, careful, weakened, slow, careful herb, and a slow, careful, weakened, slow, careful herb is slowly, carefully, a slow, careful, failed, slow, careful patient. The slow, careful, long, slow, careful tradition has, slowly, carefully, learned all of this by the slow, careful, long, slow, careful, patient, slow, careful watching of the slow, careful patients, year by year, by the slow, careful old hand of the slow, careful, long, slow, careful chain. She rises slowly, carefully. She lifts the small, careful, flat reed basket from the long stone bench. She sets it carefully, slowly, on her slow, careful, kind back, with the slow, careful, soft, careful linen straps over each slow, careful, kind shoulder. She steps, slowly, carefully, out of the cool stone hut and into the slow, careful cool of the slow, careful early morning. You follow her, slowly, carefully, half a step behind, with your own small, careful, flat reed basket on your slow, careful young back. The slow, careful walking begins, slowly, carefully, on the slow, careful, narrow path that leaves the cool stone hut at the small bronze hinge of the cypress door. The path winds, slowly, carefully, up the slow, careful slope above the village, between the slow, careful, low stone walls of the slow, careful working terraces, past the slow, careful spring of the nymphs, where the slow, careful, clear, cool water rises from the slow, careful, small, careful crack in the slow, careful basalt of the slow, careful hillside. Yunoa pauses slowly, carefully, at the slow, careful, small, careful spring. She sets, slowly, carefully, a small, careful pinch of the soft, careful, dried barley meal from a small linen pouch at her waist into the slow, careful, clear, cool water. And she speaks, slowly, carefully, the slow, careful, old, slow, careful name of the slow, careful, kind nymph, who the slow, careful, long, slow, careful tradition says, slowly, carefully, lives in the slow, careful, clear, cool water. She does this every slow, careful morning of every slow, careful walking, and she has done it every slow, careful morning of every slow, careful walking for nearly 50 slow, careful years. She does not, slowly, carefully, ask you to do the same. The slow, careful, kind nymph, she says, slowly, carefully, knows your slow, careful young face by now. Above the slow, careful spring of the nymphs, the slow, careful path opens, slowly, carefully, into the slow, careful, long, careful pasture of the slow, careful upper hill. The slow, careful pasture is a slow, careful, soft, careful, broad, slow, careful meadow of the slow, careful spring grasses, dotted with the slow, careful, soft, careful blue of the slow, careful, small, careful wild iris, and the slow, careful, soft, careful yellow of the slow, careful, small, careful wild fennel. and the slow, careful, soft, careful, pale lilac of the slow, careful, small, careful, wild thyme of the chalk slopes, the slow, careful goats of Crithon, and his slow, careful uncle are slow, careful far on the slow, careful upper terrace of the slow, careful pasture, and the slow, careful, soft, careful tunk of their slow, careful, careful bells drifts, slow, careful, softly across the slow, careful, soft, careful morning air. You know our pauses, slowly, carefully, beside the slow, careful, first careful clump of the slow, careful, soft, careful, wild fennel. This, she says, slowly, carefully, is Phoeniculum, the wild fennel of the slow, careful southern hillsides. The slow, careful, long, slender stems are slow, careful, soft, careful, pale green. The slow, careful, soft, careful, feathery leaves. When slow, careful, crushed, slow, careful, softly, between the slow, careful young finger and the slow, careful young thumb, give off the slow, careful, soft, careful, clean, warm scent of the slow, careful, soft, careful aniseed. The slow, careful, small, careful golden flowers in their slow, careful, soft, careful umbel will slow, careful come, slowly, carefully, in the slow, careful, soft, careful late summer, and the slow, careful, small, careful, soft brown seeds after that, in the slow, careful early autumn. We slow, careful gather, slowly, carefully, the slow, careful, soft, careful young leaves now, in the slow, careful, soft, careful spring, before the slow, careful, first careful flower, and we slow, careful gather, slowly, carefully, the slow, careful, small, careful, soft brown seeds in the slow, careful, soft, careful early autumn, after the slow, careful, soft, careful flower has slow, careful gone soft, careful brown. The slow, careful young leaves of the slow, careful, soft, careful wild fennel are slow, careful given, slowly, carefully, in the slow, careful, soft, careful tisane of the slow, careful, soft, careful warm cup, to the slow, careful, soft, careful kaliki, slow, careful, careful baby, and to the slow, careful, soft, careful new, slow, careful, careful mother whose slow, careful, soft, careful milk has slow, careful, soft, careful, slow, careful, slow, careful, slow, careful, slow, careful, slowed, and the slow, careful, small, careful, soft brown seeds are slow, careful given, slowly, carefully, in the slow, careful, soft, careful tisane of the slow, careful, soft, careful warm cup, to the slow, careful, soft, careful, slow, careful, careful, sluggish, slow, careful, careful gut, and the slow, careful, soft, careful, slow, careful, careful, slow, careful, slow, careful, slow, careful, slow, careful, slow, careful, tired, slow, careful, careful eye. She slow, careful kneels, slowly, carefully, in the slow, careful, soft, careful spring grass, and she slow, careful gathers, slowly, carefully, a small, careful handful of the slow, careful, soft, careful young leaves into the small, careful, flat reed basket on her slow, careful, kind back. You kneel slowly, carefully beside her. You slow, careful gather, slowly, carefully, a small, careful handful of the slow, careful, soft, careful young leaves into the small, careful, flat reed basket on your slow, careful young back. You crush, slowly, carefully, a slow, careful, soft single leaf between the slow, careful young finger and the slow, careful young thumb, and you bring it slowly, carefully to your slow, careful young nose, and you slow, careful breathe in, slowly, carefully, the slow, careful, soft, careful, clean, warm scent of the slow, careful, soft, careful aniseed, and you slow, careful close your slow, careful young eyes, slowly, carefully, and you slow, careful learn the slow, careful, soft, careful name of the slow, careful, soft, careful wild fennel by the slow, careful, soft, careful, clean, warm scent of the slow, careful, soft, careful aniseed alone. That is, slowly, carefully, the slow, careful, soft, first slow, careful step, you know arises, slowly, carefully, She moves, slowly, carefully, a few slow, careful, soft, careful paces further up the slope, to the slow, careful, first careful clump of the slow, careful, soft, careful, wild thyme of the chalk slopes. This, she says, slowly, carefully, is thymus, the wild thyme of the slow, careful chalk slopes of this slow, careful, kind hillside. It is, slowly, carefully, a small, careful, low, woody plant of the slow, careful, soft, careful chalk soils, hugging the earth in a slow, careful, soft, careful, dense, grey, green carpet, sending up slow, careful, small, careful clusters of the slow, careful, soft, careful, pink and pale lilac flowers in the slow, careful, soft, careful, early summer. The slow, careful, soft, careful scent, slowly, carefully released by the slow, careful, soft, careful, smallest brush of the slow, careful young hand, is sharp, warm, and full of the slow, careful, soft, careful memory of the slow, careful, soft, careful southern hillside at the slow, careful, soft, careful noon. The slow, careful Greek elders gave it the slow, careful, soft, careful name thymos, by which they slow, careful meant the slow, careful, soft, careful courage of the slow, careful, soft, careful spirit. She kneels, slowly, carefully. She gathers, slowly, carefully, a small, careful handful of the slow, careful, soft, careful flowering tips. You kneel slowly, carefully beside her. You gather slowly, carefully, a small, careful handful of your own. You close your slow, careful young eyes, slowly, carefully, and you slow, careful breathe in, slowly, carefully, the slow, careful, sharp, warm, careful scent of the slow, careful chalk thyme. And you slow, careful learn, slowly, carefully, the slow, careful name of the slow, careful chalk thyme by the slow, careful, sharp, warm, careful scent of it alone. The slow, careful walking continues, slowly, carefully, in this slow, careful, careful way all morning. There is, slowly, carefully, the slow, careful, small, careful clump of the slow, careful, soft, careful wild marjoram on the slow, careful, warm, careful southern bank above the spring. The slow, careful, small, careful clump of the slow, careful, soft, careful wild oregano on the slow, careful, dry, careful upper terrace of the slow, careful, soft, careful goat pasture. The slow, careful, small, careful clump of the slow, careful, soft, careful common mallow at the slow, careful, soft, careful edge of the slow, careful, soft, careful path, with its slow, careful, soft, careful, round, soft, green leaves, and its slow, careful, small, careful, soft, pink flowers. The slow, careful, small, careful clump of the slow, careful, soft, careful marshmallow at the slow, careful, soft, careful, damp, careful edge of the slow, careful, soft, careful spring of the nymphs, with its slow, careful, soft, careful, tall, slender stems, and its slow, careful, soft, careful, pale pink flowers. The slow, careful, small, careful clump of the slow, careful, soft, careful yarrow on the slow, careful, soft, careful, dry, careful upper terrace, with its slow, careful, soft, careful, feathery, dark green leaves, and its slow, careful, small, careful, soft, white, flat topped flowers in the slow, careful, soft, careful late summer to come. The slow, careful, small, careful clump of the slow, careful, soft, careful chamomile at the slow, careful, soft, careful, warm, careful, sunny edge of the slow, careful, soft, careful path, with its slow, careful, small, careful, soft, white, petaled apple, scented flowers, and its slow, careful, soft, careful, feathery, pale, green leaves. The slow, careful, small, careful clump of the slow, careful, soft, careful sage on the slow, careful, soft, careful, dry, careful, warm bank above the slow, careful, soft, careful pasture, with its slow, careful, soft, careful, broad, slightly furred grey, green leaves, and its slow, careful, soft, careful, tall spikes of slow, careful, soft, careful, small purple flowers in the slow, careful, soft, careful early summer. and the slow, careful, small, careful clump of the slow, careful, soft, careful rosemary on the slow, careful, soft, careful, warm, careful southern slope, with its slow, careful, soft, careful, narrow, dark green leaves, fragrant of pine and cedar combined, and its slow, careful, soft, careful, small, pale blue flowers in the slow, careful, soft, careful, cool weeks of the slow, careful, soft, careful spring. At each slow, careful, soft, careful clump, you know our names, slowly, carefully, the slow, careful, soft, careful Greek name, and the slow, careful, soft, careful old country name. At each slow, careful, soft, careful clump, you know us speaks, slowly, carefully, of the slow, careful, soft, careful, slow, careful season of the slow, careful, soft, careful gathering, and the slow, careful, soft, careful, slow, careful preparation of the slow, careful, soft, careful young leaf, or the slow, careful, soft, careful flowering tip, or the slow, careful, soft, careful tap root, and the slow, careful, soft, careful, slow, careful patient, for whom the slow, careful, soft, careful herb is in the slow, careful, soft, careful, long, slow, careful tradition, slow, careful given. There is, slowly, carefully, a slow, careful, soft, careful chant for each slow, careful, soft, careful herb. The slow, careful, soft, careful chant is short, simple, and easy to slow, careful learn. Given enough slow, careful, soft, careful, careful repetition, the slow, careful, soft, careful chant for the slow, careful, soft, careful chamomile names the slow, careful, soft, careful sun, and the slow, careful, soft, careful young child, and the slow, careful, soft, careful warm cup, and the slow, careful, soft, careful evening. The slow, careful, soft, careful chant for the slow, careful, soft, careful sage names the slow, careful, soft, careful dry hillside, and the slow, careful, soft, careful old man, and the slow, careful, soft, careful warm cup, and the slow, careful, soft, careful long memory. The slow, careful, soft, careful chant for the slow, careful, soft, careful rosemary names the slow, careful, soft, careful sea, and the slow, careful, soft, careful young scholar, and the slow, careful, soft, careful warm cup, and the slow, careful, soft, careful long memory. The slow, careful, soft, careful chant for the slow, careful, soft, careful yarrow names the slow, careful, soft, careful soldier, and the slow, careful, soft, careful warm bath, and the slow, careful, soft, careful long bleed. The slow, careful, soft, careful chant for the slow, careful, soft, careful mallow names the slow, careful, soft, careful soft pad, and the slow, careful, soft, careful warm poultice, and the slow, careful, soft, careful drawing of the slow, careful, soft, careful long thorn. You repeat, slowly, carefully, each slow, careful, soft, careful chant after you know her 3 slow, careful, soft, careful times. The slow, careful, soft, careful first time, you stumble. The slow, careful, soft, careful second time, you find the slow, careful, soft, careful rhythm. The slow, careful, soft, careful third time, the slow, careful, soft, careful chant settles, slowly, carefully, into the slow, careful, soft, careful young memory, like a slow, careful, soft, careful, small, careful, soft pebble, dropping into the slow, careful, soft, careful, clear, cool water of the slow, careful, soft, careful spring of the nymphs. By the slow, careful, soft, careful end of the slow, careful, soft, careful, long, careful morning, you have walked, slowly, carefully, perhaps half of the slow, careful, soft, careful, long, careful pasture of the slow, careful, soft, careful upper hill. You have, slowly, carefully, learned the slow, careful, soft, careful names of perhaps a slow, careful, dozen slow, careful, soft, careful herbs by the slow, careful, soft, careful, clean, warm scent of them alone, and the slow, careful, soft, careful, long, slow, careful chants for each. There are, says, slowly, carefully, Perhaps a slow, careful, soft, careful 100 more to come. In the slow, careful, soft, careful, slow walking of the slow, careful, soft, careful, long, quiet year. The slow, careful, soft, careful walking is slowly, carefully. The slow, careful, soft, careful, first slow, careful, careful, great slow, careful, careful library of the slow, careful, soft, careful, long, slow, careful tradition. And the slow, careful, soft, careful walking is slowly, carefully. The slow, careful, soft, careful, long, slow, careful, careful work of the slow, careful, soft, careful young apprentices slow. Careful, careful young feet for many slow, careful, careful, soft, careful, slow, careful, soft, careful seasons to come. That is, slowly, carefully. The slow, careful, soft, careful, first slow, careful, careful, great slow, careful, careful gap. The slow, careful, soft, careful, long, slow, careful tradition holds, slowly, carefully. Perhaps a slow, careful, careful 100 slow, careful, careful herbs. In the slow, careful, soft, careful, slow, careful, careful, long, slow, careful, careful, old, slow, careful, careful, chain of slow, careful, careful, slow, careful, careful, ode hands. The slow, careful, soft, careful young apprentice can, slowly, carefully, hold perhaps a slow, careful, careful dozen. After the slow, careful, soft, careful, first slow, careful, careful, long, quiet year. The slow, careful, soft, careful, long, slow, careful, careful walking is slowly, carefully. The slow, careful, soft, careful, only slow, careful, careful way to slow, careful, careful close it. You sit slowly, carefully on a slow, careful, soft, careful, warm, careful, flat boulder at the slow, careful, soft, careful upper edge of the slow, careful, soft, careful pasture, with the small, careful, flat reed basket of the slow, careful, soft, careful young leaves, and slow, careful, soft, careful flowering tips on your slow, careful, careful young lap. The slow, careful, soft, careful sun is high. The slow, careful, soft, careful goats of Crithen and his slow, careful uncle are now in the slow, careful, soft, careful far, careful pasture below the slow, careful, soft, careful pasture, and the slow, careful, soft, careful tonk of their slow, careful, careful bells is a slow, careful, soft, careful, careful, soft, careful drift of slow, careful, careful sound on the slow, careful, soft, careful, warm, careful air. Yunoa sits slowly, carefully beside you. She slow, careful unwraps, slowly, carefully, a small, careful, soft, careful linen, wrapped bundle from the small linen pouch at her waist. The bundle holds a small, careful round of the slow, careful, soft, careful, sharp, white goat cheese of Crithen's slow, careful, soft, careful, kind grandmother, and a small, careful, soft, careful round of the slow, careful, soft, careful, warm flatbread of last evening's careful baking, and a small, careful, soft, careful linen pouch of soft, careful dried figs from her own slow, careful, careful, 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 slow, cow, careful, slow, full, careful, slow, careful, careful, slow, careful, careful, slow, careful tree. You eat slowly, carefully, in the slow, careful, soft, careful, warm, careful sun. The slow, careful, soft, careful goat cheese is sharp, clean, and slow, careful, soft, careful, kind on the slow, careful, soft, careful young tongue. The slow, careful, soft, careful, warm flatbread is slow, careful, soft, careful, warm and yielding. The slow, careful, soft, careful dried figs are slow, careful, soft, careful, sweet, and slow, careful, soft, careful, chewy, and slow, careful, soft, careful, kind. There is, slowly, carefully, no slow, careful, careful hurry to walk back. The slow, careful, soft, careful village will, slowly, carefully, be slow, careful, soft, careful waiting when you slow, careful return. When you do at last walk slow, careful, softly back down the slope, in the slow, careful, soft, careful, warm, careful, early afternoon, the small, careful, flat reed baskets of the slow, careful, soft, careful, young leaves, and slow, careful, soft, careful, careful, flowering tips are slow, careful, soft, careful, careful, gently arranged in soft, careful, soft, careful, 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 soft, soft, careful, rose by the soft girl, careful, 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 echo, careful, 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 slow, careful, slow, careful, by careful, careful, handle, careful, soft, careful, meal, careful, 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 solve, something, gravel, awful, awful, mobile, mobile, something over, like simple, you know, and so local. So, painful, oh, I know. Back at the cool stone hut on the high terrace, the slow, careful, soft, careful young leaves and slow, careful, soft, careful flowering tips are slow, careful, softly tied, slowly, carefully, into small, careful, soft bunches with thin linen thread, and slow, careful, softly hung, slowly, carefully, in slow, careful, even rows from the slow, careful, soft, careful cypress beam the slow, careful, soft, careful, careful low ceiling, where the slow, careful, soft, careful, warm, careful air rising from the slow, careful, soft, careful, warm, careful hearth in the corner will slow, careful, softly dry them, slowly, carefully, over the slow, careful, soft, careful course of the slow, careful, soft, careful next slow, careful, careful 5 or 6 slow, careful, careful, soft, careful, careful days. By the slow, careful, soft, careful end of the slow, careful, soft, careful spring, the slow, careful, soft, careful low ceiling of the cool stone hut on the high terrace will be, slowly, carefully, slow, careful, softly furred with the slow, careful, softly, careful, pale, soft, careful, softer, careful, soft, careful, gentle, careful, soft, careful, careful, slow, careful, kind, soft greens, slow, careful, soft, careful, pale, soft yellows, and slow, careful, soft, careful, pale, soft pinks of all of the slow, careful fuzz, slow, careful, gathering of the slow, careful, soft, careful, long, quiet, yo, rapid, lawful, saw, flockful, long, go, whole, laughful, go, light you. That is, slowly, carefully, the slow, careful, soft, careful second slow, careful chapter. That is, slowly, carefully, the slow, careful, soft, careful first slow, careful walking of the slow, careful, soft, careful, slow, careful, long, careful library of the slow, careful, soft, careful old hand. There will be, slowly, carefully, many more slow, careful walkings in the slow, careful, soft, careful course of the slow, careful, soft, careful long quiet year, and many more slow, careful chants, and many more slow, careful, soft, careful, sloft, careful, soft, careful, soft, careful, soft, careful, soft, careful, soft, careful, soft, careful, softest, careful, gentle, careful, slow, careful, long, careful, longful, kind, soft, careful, kind, soft, careful, slow, careful, kind herb, to slow, careful, softly learn. Alpha, and call, sovel, fels, mouser, fall, grow, fall, softly learn. Let us turn now to the third chapter of the long, quiet year. Let us turn now to the arrival of the young warrior at the cypress door, and the first long lesson of the apprentice in the careful matter of the wound that does not heal kindly on its own. The third chapter is the wounded warrior. It is now perhaps 2 months later, in the warm middle of the summer. The terraces below the village are gold with the high-standing barley. The cicadas in the olive trees sing their long droning afternoon song. The goat, Bells of Crithen, and his uncle drift down the slope from the highest pasture. The cool stone hut on the high terrace, in the heat of the early afternoon, is the kindest room in the village. The thick basalt walls hold the cool of the dawn well into the long bright hours. The low ceiling, now well furred with the slow soft hanging of the spring's first gathering, smells faintly of dried thyme and dried mountain mint and the soft warm scent of the drying chamomile. You are sitting on the long stone bench by the hearth, slowly grinding a small handful of dried mallow leaf in the basalt mortar. Yunoa is sitting at the cypress door, on the small low stool by the lintel, slowly carding a small soft handful of the new spring wool with 2 flat wooden combs. The afternoon is, in every way, gentle. There is, then, the soft, hurried sound of bare feet running on the path below the terrace. A small girl appears at the cypress door, perhaps 8 years old, breathless, with a small streak of dust across one cheek, and a small sprig of olive leaf still caught in her hair. She is the small daughter of the bronze, smith down at the threshing floor. She speaks, between long careful breaths, that her uncle Dolios has just come up the long road from the small palace of Tyrrhenes, and that he has a long bronze cut down the outside of his right thigh from the cattle raid the night before, and that he is bleeding still through the linen wrap, and that his sister has sent her up the slope to the cool stone hut to fetch Yunoa down at once. Yunoa nods slowly. She rises from the small low stool. She lays the carded wool carefully in the soft willow basket beside the door. She takes down from the 4th shelf the small linen, wrapped bundle of the working tools, the small bronze knife, the small bone awl, the small bone needle, the small clay flask of vinegar, the small clay flask of brine, the small flat wooden roller. She takes down from the 3rd shelf the small alabaster jar of myrrh, the small clay jar of pine resin, the small bronze flask of pressed olive oil. She takes down from the lowest shelf a small linen bag of dried yarrow, a small linen bag of dried mallow, a small linen bag of dried marshmallow root, a small flat reed basket of dried meadow chamomile, and a small clay jar of the soft golden honey of the slow, careful village hives. She lays all of this carefully into the small, flat reed basket beside the door. She speaks, then slowly to you. Mela, she says, you walk with me. The young man Dolios is, by the small girl's words, a man of perhaps 30 summers, broad in the shoulder, with a long warrior's reach, and a long warrior's slow, patient breath. The bronze cut on the outside of the right thigh is, by the small girl's words, the long edge of a careful enemy sword, and the bleeding has, by the small girl's words, slowed but not yet stopped. The work today, Yunoa says, is the careful work of the long, slow tradition, the careful washing, the careful drawing closed, the careful packing of the soft, sweet honey of the village hive into the bottom of the wound, and the careful watching, day by day, for the slow, soft red creep of the long, careful infection. There will be, Yunoa says, slowly, no boiled water, no clean linen as a modern hand would know clean linen, no careful little glass vial of the careful colorless spirit that is now in every careful hospital. There will be only what we have. We will, Yunoa says slowly, do what we can. You nod slowly. You take up the small flat reed basket. You follow Yunoa slowly, out of the cool stone hut and down the long slope of the path that leads to the threshing floor. The small girl, the bronze smith's daughter, walks ahead of you, half a step ahead of Yunoa, casting back small worried glances every few paces. The house of the bronze smith is at the lower edge of the threshing floor, against the low old wall of the village. The cool front room has been laid out for the work by the careful instruction of the smith's older sister Ala, who herself learned a little of the long tradition from her own slow grandmother. There is a long, low wooden table in the center, with a thick, clean linen cloth spread upon it. A clay pot of warm water has been set on the small, careful brazier in the corner. A small clay flask of the village wine has been set out beside a small clay cup. The shutters have been half drawn against the high afternoon sun. Dolios is lying on the long, low table on his left side with his right thigh bared. He is awake and breathing slowly, and his face is the color of pale, unbaked bread. The cut runs the length of the outside of the thigh, from just below the hip to just above the knee, a long clean stroke of perhaps the breadth of 2 hands. The linen wrap that has been laid loosely over it is dark and heavy with the slow careful seep of fresh blood. The long careful bronze sword that made the cut is, by the small girl's slow careful words, lying in the small upper chamber where Dolios laid it down before he asked his sister to fetch the healer. Yunoa kneels slowly at the side of the table. She lays her own kind hand carefully on the soft brow of the young warrior. She speaks slowly of the warm afternoon, of the long slow walk up from Tyrene's, of the kind sister and the kind small daughter. The young warrior answers, slowly, in a soft, careful voice, that he is well enough, that the cut is not deep, that he has only come because his sister has insisted, and that he will be back at the long, careful work of the harvest by the morning. Yunoa nods slowly and does not say what she sees in the soft, careful pale of his face. The slow, careful conversation again is part of the slow, careful examination. The young warrior is more tired by the slow, careful, soft pale of his face than he yet knows. She lifts slowly the dark, heavy linen wrap from the long, careful bronze cut. The cut beneath is long, clean-edged, and still slowly seeping. She speaks slowly of what she sees. The cut is a sword cut, she says, slowly, not a spear cut. And that is the first kind word of the slow afternoon. A spear cut is a small, careful thrust deep into the soft, careful muscle, and that is a long, careful, difficult work. A sword cut is a long, careful slice across the soft, careful muscle, and the long, careful muscle, for the most part, will slowly, carefully knit if it is well washed and well drawn closed, and well kept clean, and well watched in the days to come. The long, careful bronze edge of the careful enemy sword has slowly, carefully missed the long, careful great vein of the inner thigh, which lies on the inside of the long, careful leg, and which, if it had been cut, would have bled the young warrior dry on the long, careful road home before he had walked half the long, careful distance. The long, careful bronze edge has, slowly, carefully, also missed the long, careful great cord of the careful muscle of the back of the thigh. The cut has gone, slowly, carefully, only into the long, careful outer muscle and the long, careful, soft, careful fat beneath the long, careful skin. That is the second kind word of the slow afternoon. Yunoa speaks then slowly to you. Mela, she says, the small clay flask of the vinegar, the small clay flask of the brine. the small bronze flask of the pressed olive oil, the small flat reed basket of the dried meadow chamomile, the small clay jar of the soft golden honey of the village hive, the small bone needle, the small soft careful bundle of the slow careful sinew. You hand these to her slowly, one at a time, in the slow careful order she names them. The careful washing comes first. You know a pause, slowly carefully. A small careful cup of the careful pale vinegar from the small clay flask into the warm water of the small clay pot on the brazier. She dips, slowly, a soft careful linen cloth into the warm vinegar water. She speaks slowly to the young warrior of the slow careful sting that is coming, and asks him to look slowly carefully at the careful low ceiling and to think slowly carefully of the long careful walk back home. He does so, slowly. Yunoa lays the warm vinegar cloth, slowly carefully, into the long careful bronze cut. The young warrior, slowly carefully, breathes in once sharply, and breathes out once slowly. The slow careful pale of his face deepens by a careful shade. He does not speak. The cloth is lifted, slowly, and dipped again, slowly, in the warm vinegar, water, and laid, slowly carefully, again into the long careful bronze cut. This is done slowly carefully, perhaps a dozen times, in the slow careful course of perhaps a careful quarter of an hour. By the end of the careful washing, the long careful bronze cut is, slowly carefully, clean of all the road dust and all the careful clotted blood, and the long careful slow weep of the careful fresh blood from the careful underside of the careful muscle has, slowly carefully, slowed to a careful soft slow trickle. The careful brining comes next. A pause, slowly carefully, a small careful spoon of the careful pale brine from the small clay flask into the warm water of the small clay pot on the brazier. She dips, slowly, a fresh soft careful linen cloth into the warm brine water. She lays it, slowly carefully, into the long careful bronze cut. She presses, slowly carefully, the soft careful warm cloth gently into the careful underside of the careful muscle. The young warrior, slowly carefully, draws in one soft careful breath. Yunoa speaks, slowly, of the slow careful good work of the careful brine, of how it draws the careful slow infection up out of the careful soft careful wound, of how the long careful tradition has slowly carefully learned that a wound brined on the first careful day will slowly carefully, very often, not go bad on the careful long careful third or fourth careful day. The young warrior nods slowly carefully. The careful drawing closed comes next. Yunoa threads the small bone needle slowly carefully with a careful soft length of the slow careful sinew. She lays slowly carefully a small careful soft strip of clean linen on the long careful bench beside the long careful table, and on the linen she lays, slowly carefully, the small bone needle and the careful soft length of the slow careful sinew. She speaks slowly to the young warrior of the slow careful sting that is coming. She asks him to look slowly carefully at the careful low ceiling and to slow careful breathe out slowly carefully with each careful slow careful pull of the careful soft sinew. She passes him, slowly carefully, the small clay cup of the careful village wine and asks him to take a slow careful small mouthful at the start of each careful soft careful pull. He nods, slowly, and takes the small clay cup in his careful right hand and lays back slowly carefully on the long low table. The careful drawing closed is, slowly carefully, perhaps the slow careful longest of the careful slow afternoon's careful slow work. Yunoa places the small bone needle slowly carefully into the soft, careful upper edge of the careful bronze cut, and pushes it slowly, carefully, through the careful, soft, careful skin, and out through the soft, careful lower edge of the careful cut, and draws the careful, soft sinew slowly, carefully through, and ties slowly, carefully, a careful, small, neat knot at the careful, soft, careful side of the careful cut. She does this slowly, carefully, perhaps a dozen times in the slow, careful course of perhaps a careful half of an hour. The long, careful bronze cut closes, slowly, carefully, from end to end, into a long, careful, neat seam of careful, soft sinew, careful, soft skin, and careful, soft, slow weep of the careful, fresh blood. The young warrior breathes slowly, carefully, slowly, carefully, slowly, carefully, all the way through. The careful packing of the honey comes next. Yunoa speaks slowly of the long, careful tradition of the careful, sweet honey of the village hive. The careful, sweet honey, she says slowly, is the long, careful, great gift of the careful, kind bee to the careful, kind hand of the careful old healer. The careful, long, careful tradition has, slowly, carefully, learned by the long, careful, slow watching of the careful, slow patience, year by year, that the careful, soft, sweet honey, when packed carefully into the careful, soft bottom of the careful bronze cut, draws the careful, slow infection slowly, carefully out of the careful, soft wound, and prevents the careful, long, careful, slow red creep up the careful, long, careful, soft inside of the leg. She does not, slowly, know why. She only knows, slowly, that it is so. We will, in the long, careful, slow walking of the slow, careful, long centuries to come, learn, slowly, carefully, that the careful, soft, sweet honey is, slowly, carefully, naturally low in water, and naturally high in the careful, slow, soft sugar, that the careful, slow infection cannot live in. The long, careful tradition does not, slowly, know any of this. It simply, slowly, carefully, packs the careful, soft, sweet honey. She takes the small clay jar of the soft golden honey of the village hive, and with the careful, soft tip of the small bronze knife, she carefully, slowly, packs the careful, soft, sweet honey into the careful, soft seam of the long, careful bronze cut, in the careful, slow, soft, careful, long row of the careful, slow, careful, careful, soft, careful seam, from end to end. She does this slowly, carefully, in perhaps a careful quarter of an hour. By the slow, careful end of the careful packing, the careful, long bronze cut is, slowly, carefully, a careful, long row of the careful, soft, golden honey beneath a careful, long row of the careful, soft sinew. The careful dressing comes last. Yunoa lays, slowly, carefully, a careful, soft, long strip of clean linen along the slow, careful length of the careful, long bronze cut, with a careful, soft pinch of dried meadow chamomile and a careful, soft pinch of dried yarrow tucked beneath the linen at each careful, soft end. She wraps, slowly, carefully, a long, careful linen wrap around the careful, long thigh, from the careful, soft, careful knee to the careful, soft, careful hip, in the careful, long, slow tradition of the careful, long, slow figure of 8 that her own kind grandmother taught her many slow, careful years before. She ties off, slowly, carefully, the careful, soft, careful, small knot at the careful upper end. She lays a soft, careful, kind hand on the careful, kind brow of the young warrior. She speaks, slowly, of the careful, long, slow work of the careful, next slow, careful days. The young warrior is to lie still, she says, slowly, in this cool front room, on a careful, soft, careful pallet of clean linen, for the careful, slow next 10 careful, slow days. He is to drink, slowly, every careful, slow morning, and every careful, slow evening, a careful warm cup of the careful slow tisane of dried yarrow and dried meadow chamomile, with a careful soft small spoon of the careful soft sweet honey stirred in. He is to eat slowly, only the careful soft barley porridge, and the careful soft warm goat's milk, and the careful soft warm broth of the careful slow boiled goat bone, until the careful soft slow weep of the careful long bronze cut has, slowly carefully, dried to a careful soft scab. He is not slowly to walk. He is not slowly to lift. He is not slowly to laugh too long. He is slowly to lie still, and slow careful kind, and slow careful patient. The careful long slow tradition has, slowly carefully, learned, by the careful long slow watching of the careful slow patience, year by year, that a careful long slow stillness in the careful first 10 slow careful days is the careful long slow great kindness that the careful slow patient can give to his own careful slow body. The young warrior nods. Slowly he thanks Yunoa slowly carefully, in the careful soft careful slow voice of the man whose careful slow body has just slowly carefully laid itself down at the long careful kind hand of the careful slow old healer. You sit slowly on the small low bench by the cool wall of the careful front room, with the small flat reed basket of the careful slow tools at your careful slow feet. You are slowly very quiet. The careful slow afternoon is slowly very still. The careful long slow work of the careful slow morning has been slowly. The careful slow first slow careful great work of your own careful slow young hand. That is the slow careful third chapter. That is the careful long slow work of the careful slow wounded warrior in the careful long slow tradition of the careful slow Bronze Age village, in the careful long slow afternoon of the careful summer of the careful slow long quiet year. The young warrior Dolios will slowly carefully lie still through the careful slow next 10 careful slow days, and the careful slow long bronze cut will slowly carefully knit, and the careful slow soft seam will slowly carefully dry to a careful slow soft pink scar. He will, in the slow careful course of the late summer, walk slowly carefully back down the long careful road to the small palace of Tyrins, with the careful slow long limp that he will slowly carry for the careful slow rest of his careful slow long life. He will, in the slow careful course of the careful slow long quiet years to come, walk slowly carefully back up the long slope to the cool stone hut on the high terrace many slow careful times, with small careful linen wrapped bundles of the careful slow gifts of the careful slow harvest, simply slowly to thank you, Noah, for the careful slow afternoon of the careful slow long quiet third chapter. That, in the careful slow long slow tradition, is the careful slow gentle ending of one of the careful slow many slow careful patience of the careful slow long quiet year. There will be, slowly, others whose careful slow ending is not so careful slow gentle. You do not yet know that. You will slowly learn. Let us turn now to the fourth chapter. Let us turn now to the long careful night of the young mother Phaeati, and the long careful labor, and the great careful kindness, and the great careful gap of the long slow tradition in the most tender slow work of the Bronze Age village. The fourth chapter is the long night of the labor. It is now perhaps a month later, in the closing weeks of the warm summer. The terraces below the village have been long since stripped of the high standing barley. The threshing floor at the lower edge of the village rings every careful evening with the slow rhythmic third of the wooden flails on the careful piled grain. The cicadas in the olive trees have grown a little quieter. A small, soft, warm breeze in the careful afternoons has begun, slowly, to carry the first soft scent of the autumn down from the high mountain pastures. The young mother Phaeaite is in her 7th careful month with her first careful child. You know Phaeaite by sight, although until now you have not yet been called to her careful house. She is the young wife of a careful young farmer named Erymas, who works the long terraces of the careful slow olive trees on the lower slope of the village. She is a soft, kind woman of perhaps 20 summers, with long dark hair that she wears wound carefully into a soft, careful knot at the careful nape of her neck, and slow, gentle, dark eyes, and a kind, soft, careful voice. The careful round of her careful belly has, in the slow course of the slow, careful summer, grown gently and steadily, in the careful, soft, kind, slow, careful way of the slow, careful, first careful child. She has come, slowly, 3 times already up the long slope to the cool stone hut on the high terrace, simply for the slow, careful, soft kind, teaching of the slow, long, careful tradition. She has sat, slowly, on the small, low stool by the cypress door, while Una carefully spoke, slowly, carefully, of the careful, slow, gentle care of the careful, slow, tender body, in the careful, slow last weeks of the careful, slow, long, careful waiting. There is, in this careful Bronze Age village, no careful, slow midwife who is anything other than the careful, slow village healer. Una is, slowly, carefully, both. There is, in this careful Bronze Age village, no careful, slow, careful study of the careful, slow, careful, inside of the careful, slow, soft body. There is, slowly, no careful, slow, careful, careful diagram of the careful, slow, careful, careful unborn child. There is, slowly, no careful, slow, careful, careful, clear, careful word for the careful, slow, careful, soft, red, careful flow of the careful, slow, careful, great, careful birth. There is, slowly, carefully, only the careful, slow tradition. There is, slowly, only the careful, slow watching of the careful, slow patients, year by year, by the careful, slow old hand of the careful, slow long chain. There is, slowly, carefully, the careful, slow chant to the careful, kind goddess Eileithia, the careful, slow goddess of the careful, slow, soft, careful birth, who is the careful, slow daughter of Hera and the careful, slow elder of Artemis, and who, the careful, slow, long tradition says, slowly, carefully, attends every careful, slow, soft, careful first labor in the careful, slow, long, slow, careful Greek-speaking world. The careful, slow afternoon, when it comes, is a soft, kind, warm, careful afternoon of the careful, slow, late summer. You are sitting on the long stone bench by the hearth, slowly, carefully, plaiting a small, soft, careful wreath of dried lavender, dried meadow chamomile, and dried thyme of the chalk slopes into a small, careful, soft, careful birth wreath that Una, slowly, carefully, has taught you to plait for every careful, slow, first careful child of the careful, slow village. Una is sitting at the cypress door, slowly, carefully, on the small, low stool by the lintel, slowly carding a small handful of the careful, slow, soft autumn wool with the careful, slow, flat wooden combs. There is, then, the soft, hurried sound of bare feet running on the path below the terrace. It is the careful, slow young farmer Erymas. He is breathless and slow, careful, pale, and the careful, soft, careful, warm sweat is running, slowly, carefully, in slow, careful, soft, thin lines, down the careful, slow, soft, careful, kind sun, darkened skin of his careful, slow, soft, careful, young face. He speaks between long, careful breaths that Phaeaite has, slowly, carefully. woken him in the careful, slow, soft early afternoon, and that the careful, slow, first soft pains have, slowly, carefully, begun, and that the careful, slow, soft, kind, warm flow of the careful, slow, soft, careful birth water has, slowly, carefully, just now broken, and that he has slowly, carefully run all the way up the long slope from the lower terrace. Yunoa nods slowly. She rises slowly, carefully from the small, low stool. She lays the careful, slow, soft autumn wool carefully, slowly, in the soft willow basket beside the door. She takes down, from the third shelf, a small clay jar of the careful, slow, soft, pressed olive oil from the village press, and a small clay jar of the careful, slow, soft, scented sesame oil from the long traders down to Egypt, and the small bronze flask of the slow, scented oil of dried lavender. She takes down from the lowest shelf a small linen bag of dried raspberry leaf, the careful, slow, soft, kind herb of the careful, slow, soft, careful birth, and a small linen bag of dried meadow chamomile, and a small linen bag of dried lemon balm. She takes down, from the second shelf, a small linen bag of dried iris root, and a small linen bag of dried fennel root. She lays all of this slowly, carefully into a small flat reed basket. She lays on top of all of it the small, careful, soft, careful birth wreath that you have just slowly, carefully finished plaiting. She lays, on top of that, a small, careful, soft, careful, clean, folded length of soft, careful linen, and a small, careful, soft, careful, folded length of careful, soft, careful, clean wool. She speaks slowly to you. Mela, she says, you walk with me. The work of the careful, slow, long, careful night is, slowly, the careful, slow, long work of the careful, slow tradition. There will be, slowly, no careful, slow, careful instrument that the careful, slow, modern hand would recognize as a careful, slow, careful instrument. There will be, slowly, only the careful, slow, soft, careful, warm cloths, the careful, slow, soft, careful, warm tisanes, the careful, slow, soft, careful, kind chant, the careful, slow, soft, careful, kind hand, and the careful, slow, long, careful, patient waiting through the careful, slow, long, careful, soft, kind night. You nod slowly. You take up the small flat reed basket. You follow Yunoa slowly. Down the long slope of the path, past the threshing floor at the lower edge of the village, around the careful, slow, soft, kind corner of the small old wall of the village, to the careful, slow, soft, careful, kind, small, careful stone house of the careful, slow, young farmer, Erimus, on the careful, slow, soft, kind lower terrace, beneath the careful, slow, soft, kind shade of the careful, slow, long, careful row of the careful, slow, soft, careful old olive trees. The cool front room of the careful, slow, soft, careful, kind, small stone house has been, slowly, carefully, laid out for the careful, slow, long work by the careful, slow, soft, kind hand of the careful, slow, soft, kind, slow, careful elder sister of Eremas, a careful, slow, soft, kind woman named Lies, who has, slowly, carefully, herself given careful, slow birth, slowly, 3 slow, careful times in the careful, slow, long course of her own careful, slow, long, quiet years. There is a careful, slow, soft, careful, low pallet of clean linen on the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool clay floor. There is a careful, slow, soft, careful, low brazier in the careful, slow, soft, kind corner, with a careful, slow, soft, kind, warm clay pot of warm water, and a careful, slow, soft, kind, warm clay pot of the careful, slow, soft, careful tisane of dried raspberry leaf and dried meadow chamomile already gently steeping. There is, on a careful, slow, soft, kind, low wooden bench, a careful, slow, soft, careful, clean folded pile of soft, careful linen, and a careful, slow, soft, careful, clean, folded pile of careful, soft, careful wool. The careful, slow, soft, kind, small, high window has been carefully shuttered, only halfway, against the careful, slow, soft, kind, warm afternoon light. And the careful, slow, soft, kind, warm afternoon light, slowly, carefully, falls in soft, careful, pale, long stripes across the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool clay floor. Fayite is lying slowly on her left side on the careful, slow, soft pallet, with her careful, slow, soft, kind, round belly carefully cradled in the careful, slow, soft, kind, sturdy hand of her careful, slow, soft, kind elder sister. In-law lies. She is slowly awake, and slow, careful breathing in the careful, slow, soft, careful, long, slow rhythm that Unoa, slowly, carefully, has slowly taught her in the careful, slow, long course of the careful, slow, soft summer. She is slowly sweating gently across the careful, slow, soft, kind brow. She turns her careful, slow, soft, kind dark eyes slowly, carefully to the careful, slow, soft, kind cypress door as Unoa enters, and a careful, slow, soft, kind small smile lifts the careful, slow, soft, kind corners of her careful, slow, soft, kind mouth. The fear slowly is there in the slow, careful, soft, kind dark eyes. So slowly is the careful, slow, soft, kind trust. Unoa kneels slowly beside the careful, slow, soft pallet. She lays her own careful, slow, soft, kind hand carefully on the careful, slow, soft, kind brow of the careful, slow young mother. She speaks slowly of the careful, slow, soft, kind warm afternoon, of the careful, slow, long, careful walk down the slope, of the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, fragrant birth wreath that Mela, the careful, slow, soft, kind young apprentice, has plaited that very morning. The careful, slow young mother smiles, slowly, carefully, at the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, fragrant wreath. Lies the careful, slow, soft, kind elder sister. In-law takes the wreath carefully from Unoa's hand, and carefully, slowly, hangs it on a careful, slow, soft, kind, small bronze nail high, on the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool wall, above the careful, slow, soft pallet, where its careful, slow, soft, kind, soft scent will drift down, slowly, carefully, all night. The careful, slow, long work of the careful, slow, long, careful night begins, slowly, carefully, in this careful, slow, soft, kind way. Unoa speaks slowly of the careful, slow, long work of the careful, slow, long, careful night, slowly, carefully, to you, the careful, slow young apprentice on the careful, slow, soft, kind, low wooden bench by the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool wall. There is, she says slowly, the careful, slow, soft, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, careful, kind, warm cloths, of the careful, slow, soft, kind, warm, scented oil rubbed slowly, carefully into the careful, slow, soft, kind, weary lower back, of the careful, slow, soft, kind, warm tisane sipped slowly, carefully, between the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, slow waves, of the careful, slow, soft, kind chant softly sung slowly, carefully in the careful, slow, soft, kind quiet, between the careful, slow, soft, kind waves. There is, slowly, the careful, slow, long work of the careful, slow, soft, kind hand laid carefully on the careful, slow, soft, kind, wary brow. There is, slowly, the careful, slow, long work of the careful, slow, soft, kind voice spoken carefully into the careful, slow, soft, kind quiet, between the careful, slow, soft, kind waves. There is, slowly, the careful, slow, long work of the careful, slow, soft, kind patience kept carefully through the careful, slow, long, careful night. There is also, she says slowly, what the careful, slow, long tradition cannot do. The careful, slow, long tradition cannot, slowly, see inside. The careful, slow, long tradition cannot, slowly, turn a careful, slow, careful child who has, slowly, settled the wrong way. The careful, slow, long tradition cannot slowly stop a careful, slow, soft red flow that has slowly gone past the careful, slow, soft, careful, long boundary that the careful, slow, soft, careful body slowly can carry. The careful, slow, long tradition cannot slowly do many of the careful, slow, soft kind things that the careful, slow, modern hand will slowly, in the careful, slow, long course of the careful, slow, long centuries to come, slowly learn to do. The careful, slow, long tradition does slowly what it can. In the careful, slow, long, careful course of the careful, slow, long, careful afternoon, the careful, slow, soft, careful waves of the careful, slow, soft, careful, long, careful labor slowly, carefully deepen. They come slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft kind, long, slow, careful rhythm of the careful, slow, soft kind first careful child. They come slowly, carefully, perhaps every careful, slow, soft kind quarter of an hour at first, and then slowly, carefully, every careful, slow, soft kind 10 minutes, and then slowly, carefully, every careful, slow, soft kind 5 minutes. In the careful, slow, soft kind, long, careful course of the careful, slow, soft kind, long, careful evening, the careful, slow, young mother breathes slowly, carefully through each careful, slow, soft, careful wave in the careful, slow, soft kind, long, careful, slow rhythm that Unoa has slowly taught her. She does not slowly cry out. She slowly breathes. She slowly sips the careful, slow, soft kind, warm tisane. She slowly leans, slowly, carefully, into the careful, slow, soft kind, sturdy hand of her careful, slow, soft kind elder sister-in-law. She slowly smiles, slowly, carefully, between the careful, slow, soft kind waves, at Unoa and at Lies and at you. The careful, slow, long, careful night slowly, carefully comes. The small, high window darkens slowly, carefully, from the careful, slow, soft kind pale gold of the careful, slow, soft kind late afternoon, to the careful, slow, soft kind deep amber of the careful, slow, soft kind early evening, to the careful, slow, soft kind dark blue of the careful, slow, soft kind quiet night. A small, careful, slow, soft kind oil lamp is, slowly, carefully, lit on a careful, slow, soft kind small, low shelf above the careful, slow, soft pullet. The careful, slow, soft kind small flame burns slowly, carefully, in a careful, slow, soft kind small, steady, careful pool of the careful, slow, soft kind pressed olive oil. The careful, slow, soft kind warm afternoon slowly, carefully gives way to the careful, slow, soft kind cool, quiet night. Unoa slowly, carefully sits on the careful, slow, soft kind low wooden stool by the careful, slow, soft pallet, with her careful, slow, soft kind hand laid carefully on the careful, slow, soft kind wary brow of the careful, slow young mother, and the careful, slow, soft kind soft careful chant to the careful kind goddess Ileithia carried softly, carefully on her careful, slow, soft kind voice. The chant is slowly, carefully, a careful, slow, soft kind small, simple, slow, careful set of careful, slow, soft kind names. It names slowly, carefully the careful, slow, soft kind goddess. It names slowly, carefully the careful, slow, soft kind young mother. It names slowly, carefully the careful, slow, soft kind unborn child. It names slowly, carefully the careful, slow, soft kind sister-in-law. It names slowly, carefully the careful, slow, soft kind young apprentice. It names slowly, carefully the careful, slow, soft kind small house of the careful, slow young farmer Erimas. It names slowly, carefully the careful, slow, soft kind small, careful, slow, careful village on the careful, slow, soft kind high terrace. It names slowly, carefully the careful, slow, soft kind goddess again. It is slowly, A careful, slow, soft, kind, small, simple, slow, careful chant of careful, slow, soft, kind names. And it is, slowly, carefully, the careful, slow, soft, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind voice. Through the careful, slow, long, careful night, you, the careful, slow, young apprentice, sit on the careful, slow, soft, kind, low wooden bench by the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool wall, with the small, flat reed basket of the careful, slow, soft, kind tools at your careful, slow, soft, kind feet. You, slowly, carefully, fetch warm water in a careful, slow, soft, kind, small clay cup when Yunoa slowly, carefully asks. You, slowly, carefully, tear a careful, slow, soft, kind, small, soft strip of clean linen when Yunoa slowly, carefully asks. You, slowly, carefully, learn slowly, carefully the careful, slow, soft, kind chant to the careful, kind goddess Eileithia by the careful, slow, soft, soft, careful repetition of the careful, slow, soft, kind voice through the careful, slow, long, careful night. You, slowly, carefully, breathe slowly, carefully with the careful, slow young mother through every careful, slow, soft, careful wave. You, slowly, carefully, do not slowly sleep. Some careful, slow, soft, kind moment in the careful, slow, soft, kind dark hours before the careful, slow, soft, kind dawn, the careful, slow, soft, careful, long, careful waves slowly, carefully deepen further. The careful, slow young mother slowly, carefully lifts onto her careful, slow, soft, kind hands and knees in the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, old way of the careful, slow, soft, kind tradition, with Lice, the careful, slow, soft, kind sister-in-law, kneeling slowly, carefully behind her, with both careful, slow, soft, kind, sturdy hands carefully cradled beneath her careful, slow, soft, kind, round belly. Slowly, carefully, kneels in front of her, with her careful, slow, soft, kind voice softly, carefully singing the careful, slow, soft, kind chant to the careful, kind goddess. The careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, kind oil lamp slowly, carefully burns. The careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, kind birth wreath slowly, carefully hangs above the careful, slow, soft, kind pallet, with its careful, slow, soft, kind, soft scent of dried lavender, dried meadow chamomile, and dried thyme of the chalk slopes, drifting slowly, carefully down into the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet room. The careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, kind, first, careful, slow, soft, kind cry of the careful, slow, soft, kind, first, careful, slow, soft, kind child. When it comes, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind hour, just before the careful, slow, soft, kind dawn, is, slowly, carefully, a careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, kind, clear, careful, kind cry. Careful, slow, soft, kind, strong. Careful, slow, soft, kind, whole. And careful, slow, soft, kind, alive. The careful, slow, soft, kind room, slowly, carefully, fills with the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, soft, careful, long, slow, soft, kind, quiet relief of every careful, slow, soft, kind person in it. Lies the careful, slow, soft, kind sister-in-law, slowly, carefully weeps. Slowly, carefully smiles, the careful, slow, soft, kind, smallest, careful, slow, soft, kind smile that you have, slowly, ever seen on her careful, slow, soft, kind face. The careful, slow young mother slowly, carefully weeps slowly, carefully, with the careful, slow, soft, kind, first careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, long, careful, kindness of the careful, slow, soft, kind, first careful, slow, soft, kind sleep that comes slowly, carefully, after the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful birth. You, the careful, slow young apprentice, slowly, carefully weep on the careful, slow, soft, kind, low wooden bench by the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool wall, very, very quietly. The careful, slow, soft, kind, first careful, slow, soft, kind child, slowly, carefully, is a careful, slow, soft, kind little girl, with the careful, slow, soft, kind dark hair of her careful, slow young mother, and the careful, slow, soft, kind round face of her careful, slow young father. She is, slowly, carefully, washed in a careful, slow, soft, kind, warm, small clay basin of warm water, with a careful, slow, soft, careful pinch of dried meadow chamomile, and wrapped, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, clean folded length of careful, soft, careful, clean wool, and laid, slowly, carefully, on the careful, slow, soft, warm, careful breast of her careful, slow young mother. The careful, slow, soft, kind young farmer Erimas, who has slowly, sat slowly, carefully through the careful, slow, long, careful night, on a careful, slow, soft, small, low stool, by the careful, slow, soft, small outer door of the careful, slow, soft, house, slowly, carefully, comes in. He kneels slowly, carefully, by the careful, slow, soft pallet. He lays his careful, slow, soft, son, darkened hand carefully on the careful, slow, soft, kind brow of his careful, slow young wife, and his careful, slow, soft, kind hand, slowly, carefully, on the careful, slow, soft, kind tiny head of his careful, slow, soft, kind first careful, slow, soft, child. That slowly is the careful, slow, soft, kind ending of the careful, slow, soft, fourth careful, slow, soft, chapter. It is, slowly, carefully, the careful, slow, soft, kind ending of the careful, slow, long, careful, soft, kind night. It is, slowly, the careful, slow, soft, kind ending of the careful, slow, soft, first careful, slow, soft, labor that you, slowly, have, slowly, ever attended. It will not, slowly, carefully, be the careful, slow, soft, kind ending of every careful, slow, soft, labor that you, slowly, carefully, will, slowly, attend in the careful, slow, long course of your careful, slow, long, quiet life. The careful, slow, long tradition, slowly, carefully, knows that. Slowly, carefully, knows that. There will be, slowly, the careful, slow, soft, nights of the careful, slow, soft, long, sad endings. Slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow course of the careful, slow, long centuries to come. There will be, slowly, the careful, slow, soft, nights of the careful, slow, soft, young mother who, slowly, carefully, does not, slowly, carefully, walk out of the careful, slow, soft, cool front room. There will be, slowly, the careful, slow, soft, nights of the careful, slow, soft, first careful, slow, soft, child who, slowly, carefully, does not, slowly, carefully, take the careful, slow, soft, first careful, slow, soft, soft, careful, cry. There will be, slowly, the careful, slow, soft, quiet nights of the careful, slow, soft, long, careful, sad walk back up the long slope to the cool stone hut on the high terrace, by the careful, slow, soft, careful first dawn, with the careful, slow, soft, small flat reed basket carefully borne on the careful, slow, soft, wary back, and the careful, slow, soft, quiet voice of softly, carefully speaking slowly, of the careful, slow, long, careful, great work of the careful, slow, long, careful tradition, and of the careful, slow, long, careful, great gap of the careful, slow, long, careful tradition, and of the careful, slow, long, careful, great kindness, that the careful, slow, soft, kind hand can, slowly, carefully, give to the careful, slow, soft, kind family, even when the careful, slow, soft, kind work cannot, slowly, carefully, save the careful, slow, soft, kind life. You, slowly, do not yet know the careful, slow, soft, quiet nights of the careful, slow, soft, long, careful, sad walk. You will slowly learn. The careful, slow, long tradition has, slowly, carefully. It's careful, slow, soft, kind way of teaching that careful, slow, soft, kind lesson too. Let us turn now to the 5th chapter. Let us turn now to the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, fevered child Linos, and to the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful watching through the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful night, and to the careful, slow, soft, kind, first careful, slow, soft, kind, real careful, slow, soft, kind, great careful, slow, soft, kind gap, that the careful, slow, long, careful tradition cannot, slowly, carefully fill. The 5th chapter is the small, fevered child. It is now perhaps 2 months later, in the gentle middle of the autumn. The terraces below the village have been long since stripped of the harvest. The threshing floor at the lower edge of the village has been long since swept clean. The careful, soft, kind, warm afternoons of the slow, careful summer have, slowly, carefully, given way to the careful, soft, kind, cool, careful days, and the careful, soft, kind, chill, careful nights of the late autumn. The first careful, soft, kind frost has, slowly, carefully, crept across the careful, soft, kind upper terraces in the careful, soft, kind dawn hours of the careful, soft, kind 2 careful past mornings, and the careful, soft, kind, cool, grey light at the careful, soft, kind, small, high window of the cool stone hut on the high terraces, slowly, carefully, the careful, soft, kind, cool, grey light of the careful, soft, kind, early autumn, for the careful, soft, kind, first careful, soft, kind time of the careful, soft, kind year. The small boy Linos is, slowly, carefully, the careful, soft, kind only careful, soft, kind son of the careful, soft, kind blacksmith of the village. A careful, soft, kind broad-shouldered, slow, careful man named Forbes, and his careful, soft, kind quiet wife Arissa, the careful, soft, kind sister of Lys, who was slowly, carefully, the careful, soft, kind sister, in-law of the careful, slow young mother Fiat, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful night of the careful, slow, soft, kind, careful, slow, soft, kind chapter. The careful, soft, kind, small boy is, slowly, carefully, perhaps 4 summers old. He has the careful, soft, kind, dark hair, and the careful, soft, kind son, darkened skin of his careful, soft, kind father, and the careful, soft, kind, round face, and the careful, soft, kind, dark eyes of his careful, soft, kind mother. He is, slowly, carefully, on every careful, soft, kind, warm, careful afternoon of the careful, soft, kind, long, careful summer, slowly, carefully, found running, slowly, carefully, between the careful, soft, kind, small, careful houses of the careful, soft, kind village, with a careful, soft, kind, small, careful, slow, careful, slow, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, small, bronze toy spear in his careful, soft, kind hand, small, careful, kind hand, and a careful, soft, kind, soft, kind, small, careful, kind shout on his careful, soft, kind, small, careful, foul, careful, all souls fall, careful, boss, full, born, careful, full, war. He has, slowly, carefully, in the careful, soft, kind, early, careful afternoon of the careful, soft, kind day before, slowly, carefully, lain down in the careful, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, warm bed of his careful, soft, kind, small, careful, kind house, with a careful, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, warm, soft, careful, kind brow, and a careful, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, quiet voice. He has, slowly, carefully, in the careful, soft, kind, cool, careful evening of the careful, soft, kind day before, slowly, carefully, Refuse the careful, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, warm bowl of the careful, soft, kind goat, milk and barley porridge that his careful, soft, kind mother has slowly, carefully set carefully before him. He has, slowly, carefully, in the careful, soft, kind, dark, cool hours before the careful, soft, kind first dawn, slowly, carefully, woken his careful, soft, kind mother with a careful, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, soft, careful, kind cry, and the careful, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, warm, soft, kind brow has slowly, carefully, by the careful, soft, kind, small, careful, kind first dawn, slowly, carefully, become the careful, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, hot, careful, kind brow of the careful, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, real, careful, soft, kind fever. The kind father has, in the early morning, walked up the long slope to the cool stone hut on the high terrace to fetch Unoa down to the warm bed of the small, fevered child. Unoa rises, slowly, from the long stone bench by the hearth, where she has been quietly stirring a small clay pot of the slow, careful tisane of dried sage and dried thyme for her own slow, careful breakfast. She lays the wooden ladle aside. She takes down from the lowest shelf a small linen bag of dried meadow chamomile, a small linen bag of dried lemon balm, a small linen bag of dried elderflower, and a small linen bag of crushed dried willow bark. She takes down from the second shelf a small clay jar of dried lime, flower from the great spreading lime trees of the careful, slow lower valley. She takes down from the third shelf a small bronze flask of the slow-scented oil of dried lavender. She lays all of this slowly, carefully into the small flat reed basket beside the door. She lays, on top of all of it, a careful, soft, small, folded length of clean linen. The walk down the long slope, in the cool grey light of the careful, slow early morning, is slow, careful, and quiet. The careful, kind blacksmith Phorbus walks half a step ahead of Unoa, with his slow, careful, broad shoulders set quietly against the careful, kind weight of the careful, slow, long, careful walk. Unoa walks half a step behind him, with the small, flat reed basket in her own slow, kind hand. You walk half a step behind Unoa, with the careful, soft, small, folded length of clean linen in your own slow young hand. The careful, kind morning birds sing very faintly from the careful, slow olive trees on the slope below the path. The careful, kind goat, bells of Crithon and his uncle drift very faintly down from the careful, slow upper pasture above the spring of the nymphs. The careful, slow, soft, kind quiet of the careful, slow, long autumn morning is a careful, slow, soft, kind quiet that is very different from the careful, slow, soft, kind quiet of the careful, slow, soft, kind summer morning. And you slowly learn that careful, soft, kind difference, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow course of the careful, slow walk down the long slope. The careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind house of the careful, kind blacksmith Phorbus is at the careful, slow, soft, kind near edge of the careful, slow, soft, kind threshing floor against the careful, slow, soft, kind low old wall of the village. The careful, slow, soft, kind warm bed of the careful, slow, small, fevered child is in the careful, slow, soft, kind small inner chamber, behind a careful, slow, soft, kind soft, hanging curtain of woven wool. The careful, slow, soft, kind Mother Arissa is sitting, slowly, carefully, on the careful, slow, soft, kind low wooden stool by the careful, slow, soft, kind warm bed, with her careful, slow, soft, kind hand laid carefully on the careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, kind hot, careful, kind brow of her careful, slow, soft, kind only son. She rises slowly when Unoa enters. The careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet relief in her careful, slow, soft, kind, dark eyes is slowly, carefully. The careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet relief of every careful, slow, soft, kind mother who has, slowly, sat through a careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful night with a careful, slow, soft, kind, small, fevered child. Kneels slowly by the careful, slow, soft, kind, warm bed. She lays her own careful, slow, soft, kind hand carefully on the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, hot, careful, kind brow of the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, fevered child. She lifts, slowly, carefully, the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, warm wool blanket from the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, warm body of the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, fevered child. She lays her careful, slow, soft, kind hand, slowly, carefully, on the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, warm chest, on the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, warm belly, on the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, warm, small, careful, kind hand of the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, fevered child. She lifts, slowly, carefully, the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind eyelid of the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, fevered child, and looks slowly, carefully, at the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, clearful, kind whites of the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, sleeping eyes. She lays the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, soft, careful, warm wool blanket carefully back over the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, warm body. She speaks slowly to the careful, slow, soft, kind mother. The fever is, slowly, a careful, slow, soft, kind, warm, dry fever of the careful, slow, soft, kind, early autumn. It is not, slowly, a careful, slow, soft, kind, cold, damp fever of the careful, slow, soft, kind chest. It is not, slowly, a careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, soft, red speckled fever of the careful, slow, soft, kind, eruptive sicknesses of the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, kind children. It is, slowly, a careful, slow, soft, kind, warm, dry fever of the careful, slow, soft, kind that, in the careful, slow, long, careful experience of the careful, slow, long, careful tradition, slowly, carefully, comes and goes, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow course of the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful 3 or 4 careful, slow, careful days. It will, slowly, ask of the careful, slow, soft, kind family, the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful watching, the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool cloths, the careful, slow, soft, kind, warm tisane of dried lime, flower and dried meadow chamomile, and crushed dried willow bark, and the careful, slow, soft, kind quiet of the careful, slow, soft, kind, small chamber for the careful, slow course of the careful, slow, long, careful 3 or 4 careful, slow, careful days. She does not, slowly, say what the careful, slow, long, careful tradition does not, slowly, know. The careful, slow, long, careful tradition does not, slowly, know what the careful, slow, soft, kind, warm, dry fever is. The careful, slow, long, careful tradition does not slowly know that, in the careful, slow, long course of the careful, slow, long centuries to come, the careful, slow, modern hand will, slowly, name it the careful, slow infection of the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, invisible, soft, careful, kind microbe. The careful, slow, long, careful tradition believes, slowly, carefully, that the careful, slow, soft, kind, warm, dry fever is slowly, the careful, slow, soft, kind, warm, careful, kind, imbalance of the careful, slow, soft, kind, hot, and the careful, slow, soft, kind, cold, and the careful, slow, soft, kind, dry, and the careful, slow, soft, kind, wet, sent, slowly, by the careful, slow, soft, kind gods, in the careful, slow, soft, kind way of the careful, slow, soft, kind gods, For the careful, slow, soft, kind reasons of the careful, slow, soft, kind gods, that the careful, slow, soft, kind family is not slowly given to know. The careful, slow, long, careful tradition has slowly, carefully learned by the careful, slow, long, careful watching of the careful, slow, long, careful patience, year by year, that the careful, slow, soft, warm tisane of dried lime flower draws the careful, slow, soft, warm sweat from the careful, slow, soft, warm body, and that the careful, slow, soft, warm sweat is slowly, carefully the careful, slow, soft, kind way of the careful, slow, soft, kind body of letting go, slowly, carefully, of the careful, slow, soft, warm, dry fever. The careful, slow, long, careful tradition has slowly, carefully learned by the careful, slow, long, careful watching, year by year, that the careful, slow, soft, warm tisane of crushed, dried willow bark, slowly, carefully, eases the careful, slow, soft, warm, careful, ache of the careful, slow, soft, warm, careful, small head, and the careful, slow, soft, warm, careful, small body of the careful, slow, soft, small, fevered child. The careful, slow, long, careful tradition does not slowly know that in the careful, slow, long course of the careful, slow, long centuries to come, the careful, slow, modern hand will slowly learn that the careful, slow, soft, warm, careful, small molecule of the careful, slow, soft, warm, careful, willow bark is slowly, carefully the careful, slow, soft, warm, careful, first, slow, careful, cousin of the careful, slow, soft, warm, careful, small white pill that the careful, slow, modern hand calls aspirin. The careful, slow, long, careful tradition simply, slowly, carefully, knows that it works in most slow, careful, cases, most of the careful, slow, soft, time, and that, slowly, is the careful, slow, soft, quiet wisdom of the careful, slow, long, careful tradition. The careful, slow, long, careful watching, slowly, carefully, begins sits slowly, carefully, on the careful, slow, soft, low wooden stool, by the careful, slow, soft, warm bed. The careful, slow, soft, kind mother Arissa sits slowly, carefully, on a second careful, slow, soft, low stool, on the other side of the careful, slow, soft, warm bed. The careful, slow, soft, Father Phorbus, slowly, carefully, returns to his careful, slow, soft, kind work at the careful, slow, soft, kind forge. Because the careful, slow, soft, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind forge does not slowly wait. You sit slowly, carefully, on a small, soft, low stool against the careful, slow, soft, cool wall, with the small, flat reed basket of the careful, slow, soft, tools at your careful, slow, soft, feet. The careful, slow, soft, warm tisane of dried lime flower, dried meadow chamomile, and crushed dried willow bark, slowly, carefully, gently steeps in a careful, slow, soft, warm, small clay pot on a careful, slow, soft, low brazier in the careful, slow, soft, small inner chamber. The careful, slow, soft, careful, small, careful, cool grey light from the careful, slow, soft, small, high window, slowly, carefully, falls in soft, careful, pale, long stripes across the careful, slow, soft, warm bed. The careful, slow, soft, warm, dry fever, slowly, carefully, holds the careful, slow, soft, small, fevered child for 3 careful, slow, soft, days, and 3 careful, slow, soft, nights. Every careful, slow, soft, quarter of an hour, slowly, carefully, lays a careful, slow, soft, small, soft, cool, damp cloth on the careful, slow, soft, small, careful, hot, careful, brow. Every careful, slow, soft, hour, slowly, carefully, Lifts the careful, slow, soft kind, small, careful, kind, warm body, and gently dribbles a careful, slow, soft kind, small, careful, kind, warm spoon of the careful, slow, soft kind, warm tisane between the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, soft, careful, kind, dry lips. Every careful, slow, soft, kind few hours, slowly, carefully, arises and walks slowly, carefully outside the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind house and stretches her careful, slow, soft, kind, wary back. And you walk slowly, carefully outside with her. And the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool autumn air clears your careful, slow, soft, kind, wary head. And you walk slowly, carefully back inside. And the careful, slow, long, careful watching, slowly, carefully, continues. On the careful, slow, soft, kind morning of the careful, slow, soft, kind, fourth day, the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, fevered child slowly, carefully opens his careful, slow, soft, kind, dark eyes, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool grey light of the careful, slow, soft, kind dawn, and asks, slowly, carefully, in a careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, soft, careful, kind voice, for a careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, warm bowl of the careful, slow, soft, kind goat, milk and barley porridge of his careful, slow, soft, kind mother. The careful, slow, soft, kind mother weeps, slowly, carefully, the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet tears of the careful, slow, soft, kind mother who has slowly watched a careful, slow, soft, kind, small, fevered child for 3 careful, slow, soft, kind days, and 3 careful, slow, soft, kind nights, and slowly, carefully, smiles, the careful, slow, soft, kind, smallest, careful, slowed, kind smile that you have slowly ever seen on her careful, slow, soft, kind face. That is the careful, slow, soft, kind ending of this careful, slow, soft, kind chapter. The careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind boy, Linus, will slowly, carefully recover in the careful, slow, soft, kind course of the careful, slow, soft, kind next careful, slow, soft, kind few careful, slow, soft, kind days, and will slowly, carefully, by the careful, slow, soft, kind end of the careful, slow, soft, kind autumn, slowly, carefully, be running, slowly, carefully again, between the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind houses of the careful, slow, soft, kind village, with the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind bronze toy spear in his careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind hand, and the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, soft, kind, playful, careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind shout on his careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind voice. There will be, in the careful, slow course of the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, quiet years to come, careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, fevered children whose careful, slow, soft, kind ending is not so careful, slow, soft, kind. There will be slowly the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet mornings on which the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, fevered child does not slowly, carefully open his careful, slow, soft, kind dark eyes. The careful, slow, long, careful tradition slowly, carefully knows that. Slowly, carefully knows that. You slowly do not yet know that. You will slowly learn. Let us turn now to the 6th chapter. Let us turn now to the long afternoons of the chronic patients, the swollen joints, the long sadness, and the long wasting, and the long kind work that the slow tradition cannot cure, but can, very gently, accompany. The 6th chapter is the slow company of the chronic patients. The careful, slow autumn deepens, slowly, into the careful, slow first weeks of the careful, slow long winter. The cool grey light At the small high window of the cool stone hut on the high terrace is now slowly the cool grey light of the long winter for the first careful slow time of the careful slow year. The hearth in the corner burns, slowly, a little brighter and a little longer, and the linen bags on the lowest shelf of the cupboard are now slowly, gently, full from the careful slow long autumn gathering. The work of the slow careful long quiet year shifts slowly from the careful slow great careful work of the careful slow sudden patience, the careful slow Gothard's thorn, the careful slow warrior's wound, the careful slow young mother's labor, the careful slow small fevered child, to the careful slow soft careful work of the careful slow long chronic patience, who will slowly be with you for the careful slow rest of the careful slow long quiet year and beyond. There are in the careful slow long quiet village 3 careful slow chronic patients of whom you will slowly become very fond. The first is an old man named Kliminos. He is the careful slow eldest of the village, perhaps 70 summers, with long thin white hair and a slow kind voice. His careful slow long working hands have, slowly, in the careful slow long course of his careful slow long quiet years, become slowly, painfully, twisted with what the careful slow modern hand will name rheumatoid arthritis. His careful slow long working knees slowly ache through every careful slow cold winter dawn. There is, slowly, no cure that the careful slow long careful tradition has, slowly carefully, learned for the careful slow long careful kind ache of the careful slow swollen joints. There is, slowly, only the careful slow soft kind, warm bath of dried meadow chamomile, dried lavender, and dried thyme of the chalk slopes. There is, slowly, only the careful slow soft kind warm rub of the careful slow soft kind warm pressed olive oil, and the careful slow soft kind warm scented sesame oil into the careful slow soft kind very careful slow knees in the careful slow soft kind cool kind evenings. There is, slowly, only the careful slow soft kind warm tisane of dried meadow chamomile and dried willow bark for the careful slow soft kind quiet ease of the careful slow soft kind very careful slow body in the careful slow soft kind cool kind nights. You walk slowly with Onoa every careful slow soft kind cool kind evening of the careful slow long winter, down the long slope to the careful slow soft kind small careful kind warm house of the careful slow soft kind eldest Kliminos. Unoa kneels slowly beside his careful slow soft kind low wooden stool by the careful slow soft kind warm hearth and rubs slowly carefully the careful slow soft kind warm pressed olive oil into the careful slow soft kind very careful slow knees, and speaks slowly of the careful slow soft kind weather, of the careful slow soft kind goats, of the careful slow soft kind threshing, of the careful slow soft kind harvest, of the careful slow soft kind grandchildren who, slowly carefully, sit in soft careful pale rows around his careful slow soft kind low wooden stool. The careful slow soft kind eldest Kliminos speaks, slowly, in his careful slow soft kind slow kind voice, of the careful slow soft kind long old days, of the careful slow soft kind long old kings, of the careful slow soft kind long old country, of the careful slow soft kind long old herbs that, slowly carefully, his own careful slow soft kind grandmother once taught his own careful slow soft kind young hand. You, the careful slow young apprentice, sit on a careful slow soft kind small low stool by the careful slow soft kind cool wall. with the small flat reed basket of the careful, slow, soft, kind tools at your careful, slow, soft, kind feet. And you slowly, carefully listen. The second is a woman named Iula. She is slowly, carefully, the careful, slow elder sister, in-law of the careful, slow young farmer Erimas, the careful, slow, soft, kind, sturdy hand who, slowly, carefully, attended the careful, slow, long, careful birth of the careful, slow, soft, kind, first careful, slow, soft, kind child of the careful, slow, young mother Fate in the careful, slow, soft, kind fourth careful, slow, soft, kind chapter. She is, slowly, carefully, a careful, slow, soft, kind woman of perhaps 40 summers, slowly, carefully, widowed, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind long ago, when her careful, slow, soft, kind young husband, slowly, carefully, did not, slowly, carefully, return from a careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful raid into the careful, slow, soft, kind territory of a careful, slow, soft, kind neighboring kingdom. She has, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, long course of the careful, slow, long, quiet years since, slowly, carefully raised, slowly, carefully, 3 careful, slow, soft, kind children of her own. She has also, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, long course of the careful, slow, long, quiet years since, slowly, carefully, carried a careful, slow, soft, long, careful, sadness in the careful, slow, soft, quiet hours of the careful, slow, soft, early morning that no careful, slow, soft, herb of the careful, slow, long, careful tradition has, slowly, carefully, ever fully eased. There is, slowly, in the careful, slow, long, careful tradition, no cure for the careful, slow, soft, long, careful, sadness. There is, slowly, only the careful, slow, soft, warm tisane of dried lemon balm, dried meadow chamomile, and dried saffron from the careful, slow, long traders down to the careful, slow, soft, kind eastern islands. There is, slowly, only the careful, slow, soft, warm-scented oil of dried lavender rubbed slowly, carefully into the careful, slow, soft, wary, careful, slow temples in the careful, slow, soft, quiet evenings. There is, slowly, only the careful, slow, soft, kind hand of the careful, slow, soft, kind old healer, slowly, carefully, laid carefully on the careful, slow, soft, wary, careful, slow shoulder of the careful, slow, soft, kind woman, in the careful, slow, soft, cool, autumn evenings, and the careful, slow, soft, kind voice of the careful, slow, soft, kind old healer, slowly, carefully, speaking of the careful, slow, soft, long course of the careful, slow, long, quiet years. You walk slowly with Ono every careful, slow, soft, cool, autumn evening of the careful, slow, long, quiet year, down the long slope to the careful, slow, soft, small, careful, warm house of the careful, slow, soft, woman Isla. Unoa sits, slowly, carefully, on the careful, slow, soft, low wooden stool by the careful, slow, soft, kind woman, and lays her careful, slow, soft, kind hand carefully on the careful, slow, soft, wary, careful, slow shoulder, and speaks slowly of the careful, slow, soft, long old days, of the careful, slow, soft, kind young husband who did not, slowly, carefully, return from the careful, slow, long, careful raid, of the careful, slow, soft, kind 3 children who are, slowly, carefully, growing tall and strong, and of the careful, slow, soft, kind small grandchildren who will, slowly, in the careful, slow, long course of the careful, slow, long, quiet years to come, slowly, carefully, fill the careful, slow, soft, kind small house of the careful, slow, soft, kind woman with the careful, slow, soft, soft, careful, soft, playful, careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind. Shouts of the careful, slow, soft, kind. Kind, small, kind children of the careful, slow, soft, kind future. The careful, slow, soft, kind woman Isla weeps, slowly, carefully. The careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet tears of the careful, slow, soft, kind woman who has, slowly, carefully, carried a careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, kind sadness in the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet hours of the careful, slow, soft, kind early morning, and you know her, slowly, carefully, lets her, slowly, carefully, weep. The third is a slow, careful widower named Pains. He is slowly, carefully, a careful, slow, soft, kind man of perhaps 60 summers, who has, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind year before, slowly, carefully, lost his careful, slow, soft, kind wife of the careful, slow, long 30 quiet years, the careful, slow, soft, kind woman, who slowly, carefully, was the careful, slow, soft, kind heart of his careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, warm house. He has, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, long course of the careful, slow, long, quiet year since, slowly, carefully begun, slowly, carefully, to lose, slowly, carefully, the careful, slow, soft, kind weight of his careful, slow, soft, kind body, in a careful, slow, soft, long, careful, way, that the careful, slow, long, careful tradition does not, slowly, know how to stop. The careful, slow, modern hand will, slowly, in the careful, slow, long course of the careful, slow, long centuries to come, slowly, carefully, name the careful, slow, soft, long, careful, wasting that may, slowly, be the careful, slow, soft, slow, careful, cancer of the careful, slow, soft, kind body, or the careful, slow, soft, kind broken heart of the careful, slow, soft, kind soul, or slowly, the careful, slow, soft, both at once. The careful, slow, long, careful tradition has, slowly, carefully, learned that the careful, slow, soft, long, careful, wasting cannot, slowly, be cured. It can only, slowly, carefully, be accompanied. The careful, slow, soft, kind, warm tisane of dried hawthorn berry from the careful, slow, soft, kind hedgerows of the careful, slow, soft, kind upper terraces, and dried lemon balm, and dried meadow chamomile, slowly, carefully, eases the careful, slow, soft, wary, careful, slow heart of the careful, slow, soft, kind widower in the careful, slow, soft, cool, evenings. The careful, slow, soft, warm bowl of the careful, slow, soft, soft barley porridge with the careful, slow, soft, warm goat milk and the careful, slow, soft, small spoon of the careful, slow, soft, soft golden honey of the village hive, slowly, carefully, gives, slowly, carefully, the careful, slow, soft, warm body, the careful, slow, soft, small, careful, quiet kindness it can, slowly, still receive. The careful, slow, soft, quiet evening, slowly, carefully, spent in the careful, slow, soft, quiet, careful, company of the careful, slow, soft, old healer, and the careful, slow, soft, young apprentice, slowly, carefully, gives the careful, slow, soft, quiet, careful, soul, the careful, slow, soft, small, careful, quiet kindness it can, slowly, still receive. That slowly is the careful, slow, soft, sixth chapter. That slowly is the careful, slow, soft, long, careful, work of the careful, slow, soft, chronic patience. That slowly is the careful, slow, soft, first careful, slow, soft, real careful, slow, soft, lesson, slowly, carefully, of the careful, slow, soft, long, quiet year. The careful, slow, soft, work of the careful, slow, soft, old healer is not, slowly, only the careful, slow, soft, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind cure. It is, slowly, also, the careful, slow, soft, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind quiet company through what cannot, slowly, be cured. It is, slowly, the careful, slow, soft, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind quiet hand, laid carefully on the careful, slow, soft, kind wary shoulder. It is, slowly, the careful, slow, soft, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind quiet voice. It is, slowly, the careful, slow, soft, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind warm tisane, and the careful, slow, soft, kind warm scented oil, and the careful, slow, soft, kind warm bowl of the careful, slow, soft, kind soft barley porridge, in the careful, slow, soft, kind cool, evenings of a careful, slow, long winter. Let us turn now to the 7th chapter. Let us turn now to the careful, slow, soft, kind shrines, and the careful, slow, soft, kind chants, and the careful, slow, soft, kind gods of the careful, slow, soft, kind Bronze Age village, and to the careful, slow, soft, kind quiet truth that, in this careful, slow, long, careful tradition, slowly, carefully, the careful, slow, soft, kind body, and the careful, slow, soft, kind soul are not, slowly, two separate kingdoms. The 7th chapter is the spiritual dimension. The careful, slow, long winter slowly deepens slowly into the careful, slow, long heart of the cold months. The careful, slow, soft, cool, evenings of the careful, slow, long winter are now, slowly, the careful, slow, soft, cold, evenings of the careful, slow, long winter, and the careful, slow, soft, quiet of the careful, slow, soft, long, careful nights is, slowly, the careful, slow, soft, quiet of the careful, slow, long, careful winter nights, deeper, longer, and stiller than the careful, slow, soft, quiet of the careful, slow, soft, long, careful summer nights. The shrine of the village is a small, careful, low stone niche set, slowly, into the careful, slow, soft, cool old wall of the threshing floor. Behind a small, careful, soft, woven curtain of woven wool. Inside the niche stands a small, careful, soft, careful, clay figure, perhaps the height of 2 hands, of a careful, slow, soft, seated figure of an old, careful, slow, soft, man with a careful, slow, soft, long, careful, beard, and a careful, slow, soft, long, careful, staff. This is, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, long old way of the careful, slow, soft, long old tradition. The careful, slow, soft, oldest careful, slow, soft, shape of the careful, slow, soft, kind God Asclepios. The careful, slow, soft, kind God of the careful, slow, soft, kind healing art. Long, careful, slow centuries before the careful, slow, soft, kind great healing temples of Epidaurus and Pergamon will, slowly, in the careful, slow, long course of the careful, slow, soft, kind classical age to come, slowly, carefully, rise. In front of the careful, slow, soft, kind shape of the careful, slow, soft, kind God Asclepios stands a small, careful, soft, careful, clay bowl. Into the careful, slow, soft, kind clay bowl, every careful, slow, soft, morning, slowly, the careful, slow, soft, kind family of a careful, slow, soft, kind patient lays a careful, slow, soft, kind small, soft, careful, offering. A careful, slow, soft, kind small, soft, careful, sprig of dried thyme. A careful, slow, soft, kind small, soft, careful, round of soft, careful, pale wax. A careful, slow, soft, kind small, soft, careful, drop of the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, golden honey of the village hive. The careful, slow, soft, kind offerings are slowly, carefully. The careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind way of the careful, slow, soft, kind family of speaking, slowly, carefully, to the careful, slow, soft, kind God. Of the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, quiet trouble of the careful, slow, soft, kind, warm body. And of the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, quiet hope of the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind soul. There is also, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful tradition, the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind reading of the careful, slow, soft, kind omens. The careful, slow, soft, kind flight of the careful, slow, soft, kind birds at dawn. The careful, slow, soft, kind shape of the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind clouds at dusk. The careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind quiet, careful, kind sound of the careful, slow, soft, kind cattle in the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind cool, kind evenings. All of these are, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful tradition, the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind speech of the careful, slow, soft, kind gods. There is also, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful tradition, the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind reading of the careful, slow, soft, kind dreams. The careful, slow, soft, kind dreams of the careful, slow, soft, kind patient at the careful, slow, soft, kind shrine. In the careful, slow, soft, kind cool, kind nights of the careful, slow, soft, kind long, careful, kind winter, are slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful tradition. The careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind voice of the careful, slow, soft, kind God speaking, slowly, carefully, of the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind path of the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind cure. There is, slowly, carefully, also, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful tradition, the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind sacrifice. When a careful, slow, soft, kind fever sweeps the careful, slow, soft, kind village, when a careful, slow, soft, kind drought lays low the careful, slow, soft, kind harvest, when a careful, slow, soft, kind sickness comes upon the careful, slow, soft, kind goats of the careful, slow, soft, kind upper pasture, the careful, slow, soft, kind elders of the village walk, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind cool, grey dawn, to the careful, slow, soft, kind threshing floor, with a careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, soft, careful, young goat, and the careful, slow, soft, kind village priest, slowly, carefully, names the careful, slow, soft, kind gods, and the careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, soft, careful, young goat is, slowly, carefully, given, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, long, old, careful, slow, soft, kind way, of the careful, slow, soft, long, old, careful, slow, soft, kind tradition, slowly, carefully, to the careful, slow, soft, kind gods. You, the careful, slow, young apprentice, slowly, carefully learn, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, long course of the careful, slow, long, quiet 7th chapter, that the careful, slow, soft, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind old healer cannot slowly be separated from the careful, slow, soft, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind gods. The careful, slow, soft, kind body and the careful, slow, soft, kind soul are not slowly, in this careful, slow, long, careful tradition, two careful, slow, soft, kind separate kingdoms. They are, Slowly, carefully, the careful, slow, soft, kind, one careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet kingdom of the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind person. And the careful, slow, soft, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind old healer is, slowly, the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind whole, quiet kingdom. That, slowly, is the careful, slow, soft, kind 7th chapter. That, slowly, is the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind teaching of the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, kind tradition. Let us turn now to the 8th chapter. Let us turn now to the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind morning of the careful, slow, soft, kind death of the careful, slow, soft, kind old goat, keeper Idman, and to the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind work that the careful, slow, soft, kind young apprentice slowly must learn how to do, slowly, when the careful, slow, soft, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind cure can slowly no longer be done. The 8th chapter is the death of a patient. The careful, slow, long winter slowly deepens, slowly, into the careful, slow, long, careful, kind, dark heart of the cold months. There is, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, warm house of the careful, slow, soft, kind old goat, keeper Idman, on the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, warm path that runs along the careful, slow, soft, kind upper terrace of the careful, slow, soft, kind goat pasture. A careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, kind cough that has slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, long course of the careful, slow, long, careful, kind autumn months, slowly, carefully, settled, slowly, into the careful, slow, soft, kind chest of the careful, slow, soft, kind old man and refused, slowly, carefully, to leave. The careful, slow, soft, kind old goat, keeper Idman is, slowly, carefully, perhaps 80 summers. He is, slowly, carefully, the careful, slow, soft, kind oldest man in the careful, slow, soft, kind village. He has, slowly, carefully, walked the careful, slow, soft, kind upper pasture above the spring of the nymphs, every careful, slow, soft, kind morning of every careful, slow, soft, kind year, for 60 careful, slow, soft, kind quiet years, with his careful, slow, soft, kind goats around him, and his careful, slow, soft, kind long olive wood staff in his careful, slow, soft, kind son, darkened hand, and the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind tongue of the careful, slow, soft, kind goat. Bells drifting slow, careful, softly across the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, kind morning air. He has, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind long, quiet course of those careful, slow, soft, kind 60 careful, slow, soft, kind quiet years, slowly, carefully, become, slowly, carefully, the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind quiet familiar of every careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, kind person of the careful, slow, soft, kind village. You walk slowly, with Unoa, in the careful, slow, soft, kind cool, grey dawn of the careful, slow, soft, kind long, careful, kind winter day, up the careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, kind warm path, along the careful, slow, soft, kind upper terrace of the careful, slow, soft, kind goat pasture, to the careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, kind warm house of the careful, slow, soft, kind old goat, keeper, the careful, slow, soft, kind warm tisane of dried hyssop, dried thyme of the chalk slopes, and the careful, slow, soft, kind soft golden honey of the village hive, the careful, slow, soft, kind warm scented oil of dried lavender, rubbed slowly, carefully into the careful, slow, soft, kind, wary, careful, slow chest. The careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, warm spoon of the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, syrup of dried hyssop, and the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, golden honey. All of these are, slowly, carefully, the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind, old healer in the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool, kind hours before the careful, slow, soft, kind dawn. The careful, slow, soft, kind old goat, keeper Idman, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool grey light of the careful, slow, soft, kind dawn, slowly, carefully, breathes, slowly, carefully. His careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, slow, soft, kind last breath, with the careful, slow, soft, kind hand of his careful, slow, soft, kind eldest daughter, the careful, slow, soft, kind woman Larissa, laid carefully on his careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, warm brow, and the careful, slow, soft, kind hand of Unoa laid carefully on his careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, wary chest, and the careful, slow, soft, kind hand of you, the careful, slow, young apprentice, slowly, carefully, laid carefully on his careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, wary, careful, slow hand. The careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, careful, oil lamp, on the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, careful, shelf, above the careful, slow, soft, kind, warm bed burns, slowly, carefully, very softly. The careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, careful, clay bowl, with a careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, careful, sprig of dried thyme, and a careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, careful, drop of the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, golden honey. On the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, careful, shelf above the warm bed, has been slowly, carefully, set there slowly, carefully, by the careful, slow, soft, kind eldest daughter, only the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool, grey hour before, slowly, carefully. In the careful, slow, soft, kind, long old way of the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, tradition. The work of the careful, slow, soft, kind old healer in the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, hour after the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, death is slowly, carefully. The careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, work of the careful, slow, soft, kind closing. Unoa slowly, carefully closes the careful, slow, soft, kind eyes with the careful, slow, soft, kind, two soft, careful, small bronze coins from her careful, slow, soft, kind, small linen pouch at her waist. In the careful, slow, soft, kind, long old way of the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, tradition, that the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, quiet, soul of the careful, slow, soft, kind old goat, keeper may, slowly, carefully, pay the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, quiet, careful, ferryman of the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, river of the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, dead. Unoa, slowly, carefully, washes the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, warm body with the careful, slow, soft, kind, warm scented oil of dried lavender, with the careful, slow, soft, kind, eldest daughter Larissa, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, long old way of the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, tradition. You, the careful, slow young apprentice, slowly, Sit on the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, low stool by the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool wall, with the small, flat reed basket of the careful, slow, soft, kind tools at your careful, slow, soft, kind feet. And you slowly, carefully watch. You walk slowly with Unoa, slowly, carefully, back down the long slope to the cool stone hut on the high terrace, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool, grey early afternoon. You do not slowly speak. Unoa does not slowly speak. The careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind walk down the long slope is slowly, very long, by the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, high window of the cool stone hut on the high terrace. In the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool, grey late afternoon, slowly, carefully, takes your careful, slow, soft, kind young hand in both of her own slow, careful, soft, kind hands. She speaks slowly of the careful, slow, soft, kind, first careful, slow, soft, kind death that has, slowly, carefully, come upon you in the careful, slow, long course of the careful, slow, long, quiet year. She tells you, slowly, that a healer who has, slowly, carefully, not yet lost a patient has, slowly, not yet been a healer. She tells you, slowly, that the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind ending is slowly the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind, whole, long, careful, kind tradition. She tells you slowly that the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, quiet, careful, kind tears that you slowly, carefully weep in the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool, grey late afternoon are slowly the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, quiet, careful, kind, right, careful, slow, soft, kind tears. That slowly is the careful, slow, soft, kind 8th chapter. That slowly is the careful, slow, soft, kind first careful, slow, soft, kind real careful, slow, soft, kind quiet, careful, kind death of the careful, slow, long, quiet year. There will be, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, long course of the careful, slow, long, careful, kind, quiet years to come, careful, slow, soft, kind, many more. The careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind closing is, slowly, carefully. The careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind work that the careful, slow, soft, kind young apprentice, slowly, carefully, must learn, slowly, to do, again and again, with the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kindness of the careful, slow, soft, kind hand and the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kindness of the careful, slow, soft, kind voice. Let us turn now to the 9th chapter. Let us turn now to the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind arrival of the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, kind trader Hipponax, and to the careful, slow, soft, kind, small bronze chest, and to the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind first arrival of the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, kind herbs of the careful, slow, soft, kind, far, careful, slow, soft, kind world. The 9th chapter is the long, careful trader from Tyrenes. The careful, slow, long winter slowly deepens, slowly, into the careful, slow, long, careful, kind, cold heart of the early year. The careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind paths of the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, warm village are, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool, grey mornings of the careful, slow, long, careful, kind winter, slowly, carefully, edged with the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool, careful, kind, small, careful, kind, soft, careful, kind, white frost. The careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind, smoke from the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, warm hearths of the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, warm houses, slowly, carefully. Rises slowly, carefully, in soft, careful, pale, long, careful, kind, quiet, white plumes, against the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool, grey, careful, kind, quiet sky. The long, careful, kind, trader Hipponyx comes, slowly, carefully. Up the long road from the small palace of Tyrants, slowly, carefully, perhaps once a month, in the careful, slow, long course of the careful, slow, long, quiet year. He is, slowly, carefully, a careful, slow, soft, kind, broad-shouldered man of perhaps 50 summers, with a careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, kind, dark beard, and a careful, slow, soft, kind eye, and a careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind voice, who, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, long course of the careful, slow, long, careful, kind decades, has slowly, carefully walked the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, kind trade road from the careful, slow, soft, kind, small palace of Tyrants down to the careful, slow, soft, kind, small port at Argos, and from Argos across the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, kind blue sea to the careful, slow, soft, kind island of Crete. And from Crete on the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, kind blue sea to the careful, slow, soft, kind ports of the careful, slow, soft, kind Egyptian delta, and onward, slowly, carefully, by the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, kind caravan road to the careful, slow, soft, kind cities of Mesopotamia, and the careful, slow, soft, kind cities of the careful, slow, soft, kind Hittite kingdom far to the careful, slow, soft, kind east. The long, careful, kind trader Hipponyx brings, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, careful, kind bronze chest that he, slowly, carefully, carries on the careful, slow, soft, kind, broad, careful, kind, back of his careful, slow, soft, kind donkey, slowly, carefully. The careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, kind herbs of the careful, slow, soft, kind, far, careful, slow, soft, kind world. He brings, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, careful, alabaster jars, the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, brown crystal of myrrh, from the careful, slow, soft, kind, far, careful, slow, soft, kind southern land of Punt, brought across the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, sea, by the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, great traders of the careful, slow, soft, kind Egyptian fleet. He brings, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, careful, alabaster jars, the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, pale yellow crystal of frankincense, brought up the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, slow caravan road from the careful, slow, soft, kind Hadramaut. He brings, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, careful, clay jars, the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, crushed, dried ginger root from the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, eastern islands. He brings, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, careful, clay jars, the careful, slow, soft, soft, careful, costly cassia bark from the careful, slow, soft, far, careful, slow, soft, southern lands. He brings, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, careful, dark glass vials, the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, lapis, Blue eye salves of careful, slow, soft, kind Egyptian make. He brings, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, careful, dark glass vials. The careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, sweet wines of careful, slow, soft, kind cypress. He stops, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, warm house of the careful, slow, soft, kind blacksmith Forbes, at the careful, slow, soft, kind near edge of the careful, slow, soft, kind threshing floor. He sets up, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, warm front room of the careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, warm house. The careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, soft, careful, bronze chest, and lays out, slowly, carefully, the careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, soft, careful, alabaster jars, and the careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, soft, careful, clay jars, and the careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, soft, careful, dark glass vials in the careful, slow, softful, quiet, careful, orderly rows on a careful, slow, soft, soft, careful odors on a rueful, slow, sloppy floats, pose mile, wooden bench. The careful, slow, soft, kind elders of the village walk, slowly, carefully, down the long slope to the careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, and warm house, with their careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, soft, careful, woven baskets of dried herbs, and the careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, soft, careful, clay jars of the careful, slow, soft, kind soft golden honey of the village hive, and the careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, soft, careful, woven cloths of the careful, slow, soft, soft, conclo, slow, flow, tam wool. In the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, quiet, careful, currency of the careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, warm village, that they may, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, quiet, careful, way of the careful, slow, soft, long, old, careful, tradition, slowly, carefully, exchange the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, quiet, careful, harvest of the careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, warm village, for the careful, slow, soft, soft, careful, quiet, careful, herbs of the careful, slow, soft, far, careful, world. You walk slowly, with Unoa, slowly, carefully, down the long slope to the careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, warm house of the careful, slow, soft, kind blacksmith. You carry, slowly, in the careful, slow, soft, kind small woven basket on your careful, slow, soft, kind young back, the careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, woven cloth of the careful, slow, soft, soft, autumn wool, slowly, carefully, set carefully there by Unoa for the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, quiet, careful, exchange. The careful, slow, soft, kind long, careful, trader Hipponax, slowly, carefully, smiles, slowly, carefully, when Unoa enters the careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, warm front room. He bows slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, quiet, careful, way of the careful, slow, soft, kind long, careful, trader. Slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, quiet, careful, way of the careful, slow, soft, kind old healer. Slowly, carefully. Look slowly, carefully along the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, quiet, careful, orderly rows of the careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, soft, careful, alabaster jars and the careful, slow, soft and cold, kind, full, kind, clay jars, and the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, careful, kind, dark, glass vials. She lifts slowly, carefully. A careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, soft, careful, kind, alabaster jar of the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, brown crystal of myrrh, from the careful, slow, soft, kind, far, careful, slow, soft, kind, southern land of Punt. She unstops, slowly, carefully. The careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, soft, careful, kind, alabaster lid. She breathes, slowly, carefully. The careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, warm, careful, kind, dark, resinous, careful, kind, clean scent of the careful, slow, soft, kind, myrrh. In the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, quiet, careful, kind way of the careful, slow, soft, kind old healer who is, slowly, carefully, checking slowly, carefully, that the careful, slow, soft, kind Mela has slowly, carefully, not slowly, carefully, gone soft, careful, kind, musty in the careful, slow, long course of the careful, slow, long, careful, kind sea voyage. She nods, slowly. The careful, slow, soft, kind myrrh is, slowly, carefully, fresh and good. She gives, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, quiet, careful, kind exchange. The careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind woven cloth of the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, kind autumn wool to the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, kind trader. She receives, slowly, carefully, in return, the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, soft, careful, kind alabaster jar of the careful, slow, soft, kind myrrh. She lays it, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind small woven basket on your careful, slow, soft, kind young back. She bows, slowly, carefully, to the careful, slow, soft, kind long, careful, kind trader. The careful, slow, soft, kind long, careful, kind trader bows, slowly, carefully back. The careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind exchange, slowly, is finished. You walk, slowly with Unoa, slowly, carefully, back up the long slope to the cool stone hut on the high terrace, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool, grey late afternoon, with the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, careful, kind alabaster jar of the careful, slow, soft, kind mirror, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind small woven basket, on your careful, slow, soft, kind young back. The careful, slow, soft, kind mirror, slowly, carefully, is slowly. The careful, slow, soft, kind first careful, slow, soft, kind herb of the careful, slow, soft, kind far careful, slow, soft, kind world that you, slowly, have ever carried in your careful, slow, soft, kind young hand. You, slowly, are slowly very quiet. That slowly is the careful, slow, soft, kind ninth chapter. That slowly is the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind, teaching of the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, kind trade routes of the careful, slow, soft, kind Bronze Age. The careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind world that you, slowly, have always, slowly, thought to be slowly. The careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, kind, warm village on the high terrace, and the careful, slow, soft, kind upper pasture, and the spring of the nymphs, and the small palace of Tyrins, and the careful, slow, soft, kind palace at Mycenaean 2 days' walk to the east, is slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, quiet, careful, truth of the careful, slow, soft, kind long, careful, tradition, much wider, slowly, than that. It reaches, slowly, carefully, across the careful, slow, soft, kind long, careful, blue sea to Crete, and across the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, kind blue sea to Egypt, and onward, slowly, carefully, by the careful, slow, soft, kind, long, careful, kind caravan road, to Mesopotamia, and to the careful, slow, soft, kind Hittite kingdom, and to the careful, slow, soft, kind, far careful, slow, soft, kind southern land of Punt. The careful, slow, soft, kind Bronze Age is, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind, quiet, careful, kind truth of the careful, slow, soft, kind long, careful, kind tradition, slowly, a careful, slow, soft, kind deeply careful, kind connected world. Let us turn now to the 10th chapter. Let us turn now to the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind quiet, careful, kind closing of the careful, slow, soft, kind apprenticeship, and to the careful, slow, soft, kind small bronze knife, and to the careful, slow, soft, kind small basalt mortar, and to the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind, quiet, careful, kind, walking out into the careful, slow, soft, kind wider, careful, slow, soft, kind world. The 10th chapter is the apprentice's last day. The careful, slow, long winter slowly gives way slowly to the careful, slow, soft, kind first careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind soft, warm, careful, kind days of the careful, slow, soft, kind early spring. The careful, slow, soft, kind cool grey mornings, slowly, carefully, lift, slowly, into the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind pale gold mornings. The careful, slow, soft, kind small, careful, kind soft, careful, kind first crocuses of the careful, slow, soft, kind year, slowly, carefully, push up, slowly, carefully, through the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind warm, careful, kind soft, careful, kind earth on the careful, slow, soft, kind upper terraces, in the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind pale lilac, and the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind soft, careful, kind pale gold of the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind first careful, slow, soft, kind spring. The careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind small, careful, kind tunk of the careful, slow, soft, kind goat, bells of the careful, slow, soft, kind gothered Crithen, and his careful, slow, soft, kind uncle. Slowly, carefully drifts up, slowly, carefully, from the careful, slow, soft, kind upper pasture, above the spring of the nymphs, in the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind warm, careful, kind soft, careful, kind early afternoons. The careful, slow, long, quiet year is, slowly, carefully, almost slowly finished. You know, speak slowly, on the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind warm, careful, kind soft, careful, kind early afternoon of the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind first, careful, slow, soft, kind warm, careful, kind soft, careful day of the careful, slow, soft, kind early spring. In the careful, slow, soft, kind cool stone hut on the high terrace, where you are, slowly, carefully, sitting on the long stone bench by the hearth, slowly grinding a small handful of dried meadow chamomile in the basalt mortar. She tells you slowly that the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind small, careful, kind soft, careful, kind small village of Lerna, 2 days' walk to the east, has, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind year before, slowly, carefully, lost their careful, slow, soft, kind old healer to a careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind warm, careful, kind dry fever in the careful, slow, long, careful, kind autumn. She tells you, slowly, that the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind elders of the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, small, careful, kind, small village of learner have, slowly, carefully. In the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, early spring, slowly, carefully. Center, careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, soft, careful, kind, young, careful, kind, man up the long road, slowly, carefully. To ask, slowly, carefully. Of the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, elders of this careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, small, careful, kind, small village, slowly, carefully. That a careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, young apprentice be sent, slowly, carefully, down the long road, slowly, carefully. To take up the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, quiet, careful, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, old healer of the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, small, careful, kind, small village of learner. The careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, elders of the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, village have, slowly, carefully, named, slowly, carefully, you. You, slowly, are, slowly, very quiet. The careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, small, careful, kind, soft, careful, kind, basalt pestle, slowly, carefully, rests slowly in your careful, slow, soft, kind, young hand. The careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, small, careful, kind, soft, careful, kind, dried meadow chamomile, slowly, carefully, gives off, slowly, carefully. The careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, warm apple, scented, careful, kind, clean scent into the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool, small stone hut. The careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, cool grey light from the careful, slow, soft, kind, small, high window, slowly, carefully, falls, slowly, carefully, in soft, careful, pale, long stripes across the careful, slow, soft, kind, cool clay floor. Unoa, slowly, carefully, rises, slowly, carefully, from the small low stool by the cypress door. She walks, slowly, carefully, to the cupboard. She lifts, slowly, carefully, from the fourth shelf, the small bronze knife in the soft, small linen sleeve. She lifts, slowly, carefully, the small basalt mortar and the small basalt pestle. She lays them, slowly, carefully, on the long stone bench beside you. She lifts, slowly, carefully, from the lowest shelf, a small linen bag of dried meadow chamomile, a small linen bag of dried lemon balm, a small linen bag of dried lavender, a small linen bag of dried thyme of the chalk slopes, a small linen bag of dried sage, and a small linen bag of dried mallow. She lifts, slowly, carefully, from the second shelf, a small linen bag of dried valerian root, a small linen bag of dried iris root, and a small linen bag of dried fennel root. She lifts, slowly, carefully, from the third shelf, the small alabaster jar of the soft, careful brown crystal of myrrh. She lays them, slowly, carefully, all together, in a small woven basket beside the small bronze knife and the small basalt mortar. She speaks slowly in the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, quiet, careful, kind voice of the careful, slow, soft, kind old healer. These, she says, slowly, are, slowly, carefully, your own. The careful, slow, soft, kind, small bronze knife, the careful, slow, soft, kind, small basalt mortar, the careful, slow, soft, kind, small linen bags of the careful, slow, soft, kind, first careful, slow, soft, kind, dozen careful, kind herbs of the careful, slow, soft, kind cupboard. They will, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, quiet, careful, kind way of the careful, slow, soft, kind, long old careful, kind tradition, slowly, Become the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind. First careful, slow, soft, kind cupboard of the careful, slow, soft, kind young healer of the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, small, careful, kind, small village of learner. The careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind ceremony at the careful, slow, soft, kind spring of the nymphs. On the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, quiet morning of the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind, first careful, slow, soft, kind, warm day of the careful, slow, soft, kind, early spring, is slowly, carefully, very simple. The careful, slow, soft, kind village priest, slowly, carefully pause, slowly, carefully. A careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, careful, libation of pressed olive oil. And a careful, slow, soft, kind, small, careful, soft, careful, libation of village wine. Into the careful, slow, soft, kind, clear, cool water of the spring of the nymphs. He speaks slowly, carefully. The careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind name of the careful, slow, soft, kind nymph of the spring. He speaks slowly, carefully. The careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind name of the careful, slow, soft, kind god Asclepios in the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind oldest, careful, slow, soft, kind oldest, careful, slow, soft, kind shape of the careful, slow, soft, kind seated old man with the careful, slow, soft, kind staff. He speaks slowly, carefully. The careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind name of Unoa, and the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind name of you, slowly, Mela. He lays slowly, carefully his careful, slow, soft, kind hand on your careful, slow, soft, kind young brow. The careful, slow, soft, kind ceremony, slowly, carefully, is finished. You walk slowly in the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind warm, careful, soft, careful, morning of the careful, slow, soft, kind first careful, slow, soft, kind warm day of the careful, slow, soft, kind early spring. Down the long road, slowly, carefully, with the careful, slow, soft, kind small woven basket of the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, first careful, slow, soft, kind cupboard on your careful, slow, soft, kind young back. You know her. Slowly, carefully, walks with you, slowly, carefully, as far as the careful, slow, soft, kind crossroads at the foot of the long slope, where the careful, slow, soft, kind long road from the village meets the careful, slow, soft, kind long road that runs along the careful, slow, soft, kind edge of the Argive plain. She lays, slowly, carefully, her careful, slow, soft, kind hand on your careful, slow, soft, kind young brow. She kisses, slowly, carefully, the top of your careful, slow, soft, kind young head. She tells you, slowly, that the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind young healer is slowly. The careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind quiet, careful, kind work of the careful, slow, soft, kind hand, and the careful, slow, soft, kind voice, and the careful, slow, soft, kind patience, and the careful, slow, soft, kind kindness, and that the careful, slow, soft, kind herbs in the careful, slow, soft, kind small woven basket on your careful, slow, soft, kind young back are slowly, only slowly, the careful, slow, soft, kind soft, careful, kind small, careful, soft, careful, beginning. She turns slowly, carefully, and walks slowly, carefully, back up the long slope to the cool stone hut on the high terrace. You walk slowly on, slowly, carefully, down the long road, slowly, carefully, in the careful, slow, soft, kind, warm, careful, kind, soft, careful, kind morning of the careful, slow, soft, kind, first careful, slow, soft, kind, warm day of the careful, slow, soft, kind, early spring. Slowly alone. That slowly is the careful, slow, soft, kind, 10th chapter. That slowly is the careful, slow, soft, kind, quiet, careful, kind closing of the careful, slow, soft, kind apprenticeship. The careful, slow, long, quiet year, slowly, carefully, has slowly finished. The careful, slow, soft, kind young apprentice has slowly, carefully become slowly the careful, slow, soft, kind young healer. The careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind walk down the long road is slowly, carefully, very long and very quiet and very slow, and the careful, slow, soft, kind small woven basket on the careful, slow, soft, kind young back slowly holds slowly only the careful, slow, soft, kind, soft, careful, kind first careful, slow, soft, kind beginning of the careful, slow, soft, kind long, careful, kind tradition. And so, very gently, we come to the closing of the long, quiet evening. We have walked together, slowly, through one long, quiet year of the apprentice Mela, in the small, careful village above the Argive plain, in the careful, slow, long, careful Greek-speaking world of the late Bronze Age, in the long ago year of 1500 before the Common Era. We have walked, slowly, through the cool stone hut on the high terrace and the 4 wooden shelves of the cupboard. We have walked, slowly, through the spring of the nymphs and the upper pasture above the village. We have walked, slowly, through the first patient at the cypress door and the careful drawing of the dark thorn from the soft pad of the second knuckle. We have walked, slowly, through the long, careful naming of the herbs of the upper pasture and the long, careful, slow chants for each. We have walked, slowly, through the long, careful afternoon of the wounded warrior dolios and the long, careful seam of the soft sinew. We have walked, slowly, through the long, careful night of the young mother Phaeaci and the soft cry of the first careful child. We have walked, slowly, through the long, careful watching of the small, fevered child linos and the warm tisane of dried lime, flower and crushed, dried willow bark. We have walked, slowly, through the long, careful evenings of the chronic patients, the slow, swollen joints of the eldest Claminos, the long, quiet sadness of the kind woman Isla, the long, careful wasting of the kind widower pains. We have walked, slowly, through the careful, slow shrines and the slow, quiet chants and the slow, kind gods of the careful Bronze Age village. We have walked, slowly, through the long, careful death of the old goat, Keeper Idman, and through the long, careful work of the closing. We have walked, slowly, through the careful, slow, long arrival of the careful, long trader Hipponax, and through the careful, slow, soft, careful, first careful, kind herbs of the careful, slow, far careful, kind world. And we have walked, slowly, at the careful, slow last, to the careful, slow, long, careful crossroads, at the careful, slow, soft, careful foot of the careful, slow, long, careful slope, where the careful, slow young apprentice slowly became slowly the careful, slow, soft, careful, kind young healer, and walked slowly on, slowly, down the careful, slow, long, careful road, into the careful, slow, soft, careful, kind, warm, careful, kind, soft, careful first morning of the careful, slow, soft, careful, kind, early spring of the careful, slow, soft, careful next, careful, slow, soft, careful, kind year. There is, in the careful, slow, long, careful tradition of the careful, slow Bronze Age village, A careful, slow, soft, careful, kind, quiet patience that has, slowly, very little to do with cleverness, and a careful, slow, soft, careful, kind, quiet kindness that has slowly, very little to do with hurry. The careful, slow, soft, careful, kind old healer by the careful, slow, soft, careful, warm hearth, with the careful, slow, soft, careful basalt mortar in one slow, careful hand, and the careful, slow, soft, careful linen bag of dried herbs in the other, was, slowly, simply, slowly, carefully, paying attention to the careful, slow, soft, careful, slow needs of the careful, slow, soft, careful, kind body, and the careful, slow, soft, careful, slow troubles of the careful, slow, soft, careful, kind heart, and trusting the careful, slow, soft, careful, kind, small herbs of the careful, slow, soft, careful, kind, upper pasture, and the careful, slow, soft, careful, kind, small chance, the careful, slow, soft, careful, kind, long old tradition, and the careful, slow, soft, careful, kind, small, kind, gods of the careful, slow, soft, careful, kind, small, careful, kind, warm village to do. Slowly. Their careful, slow, soft, careful, kind, quiet, careful, kind part in the careful, slow, long, careful, slow passage of the careful, slow, long, careful, kind night, and the careful, slow, long, careful, kind passage of the careful, slow, long, careful, kind season. If your eyes have grown heavy somewhere in the middle of all of this, that is exactly the point. Let them close. Let the names drift away like olive leaves on a slow stream. There is nothing here that is needed by tomorrow morning, nothing here that asks anything of you. The cool stone hut on the high terrace will be here when you wake. The small woven basket of the first cupboard will be here when you wake. The careful, slow, long, careful Greek speaking world of the late Bronze Age will be here when you wake. Sleep well. The apothecary will be back soon with another quiet chapter. The fire on the hearth is low. The shutters are half drawn. The small lamp on the workbench is gently turned down. The linen bags hang quietly from the cypress beams of the low ceiling. The careful, slow, long, careful Argive plain slowly sleeps. The careful, slow, long, careful palace at Mycenaean slowly. 2 days' walk to the east slowly sleeps. The careful, slow, long, careful spring of the nymphs slowly runs softly in its careful, slow, long, careful basalt crack in the careful, slow, soft, careful, kind hillside. The careful, slow, long, careful goat bells of the careful, slow, long, careful upper pasture slowly are silent for the night. The careful, slow, long, careful, kind young apprentice Mela, somewhere, slowly, on the careful, slow, long, careful road, to the careful, slow, long, careful small village of learner, slowly, has lain down for the careful, slow, long, careful first careful, slow, soft, careful, kind night of the careful, slow, long, careful, new, careful, slow, long, careful year. Good night.